6 o'clock on my computer right now.
Yeah,
But it could be
there you go.
fast.
Right now. Holy smokes.
Okay, I will call to order. Approval of agenda.
I move that the agenda be approved as presented.
We'll need a seconder for that.
Second the motion.
I will ask if anybody wants to speak to that. I will call for the question, all in favor. Next one is, oh,
No, go ahead.
wait, just tell me if I'm going too fast.
No, I'm good.
Delegations. Mr. Ed Kruger with an MI letter. Come to the front and be comfortable. There's no pressure. Thank you for coming, by the way.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come.
You know everybody, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
So,
and that's Pete on the screen.
yeah, I know Pete.
Hey, Ed.
Hey, Pete. You're doing a great job getting this better, keeping the road open here for me.
Well, thank you.
I know it's a long ways that you have to keep the road open for me there.
Yeah, well,
It's
It's
on the
not
way to
just
the
for you.
mailbox. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the way
I
to the
wrecked your mailbox, by the way. Well, I told you that, so.
Yeah, I suspected that was you. But I
You didn't
appreciate-
put a letter in and tell them you did it, did you? Oh, that snow is heavy when it pushes it.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, what have you got for us?
Well, before we get to the letter from MI, I thought I'd give everybody a little bit of a background, because not all of you have been around for all the floods that we've had here in the last, well, I guess, what, 12 years now. So the issue that comes up with me is the culvert that is just by the access where you turn into what used to be the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
And that culvert actually drains quite a large area. It has this little map around that I just printed off, and you'll see how it comes from this road that goes between myself and you here, all the way into the jail and also into the ACC property up there, and then up past Laurie Road.
It all comes this way.
It all comes this way, and then it ends up going through that culvert. So there's actually a fair amount of water that goes through there. And the concern is that when there's a high water level, river level is high, we close the culvert, but then if it rains, then that watershed all comes down and pools in front of that culvert. So that's my concern there. Going back a little bit, we started leasing this property that we have there in the 1980s. And it was about 1995 that the province started working on Highway 110, Eastern Access here. And they didn't come to any of us property owners upstream and say, hey, we're putting a bridge in here, a road in here. We don't know what it's going to do to river flooding in the future. So they didn't let us know. And we quickly found out in 2011, and they did confirm that the highway and the bridge did act as a dam, and it did raise the water level higher than it would have been without that there. So we were kind of caught off guard with all that. All those thoughts would have played into our decision in locating there to grow our nursery stock, had we known that 110 was going to be there. So then in 2014, end of June, the rains were starting to happen. The city and the province held a news conference at the Discovery Center, and they were telling the public what their plan was to provide flood protection for the city of Brandon. And one of the things that they were going to do was build up 110 even higher so that they would still have access to the city, especially for transportation. And that made sense, and we realized that was going to happen. But as I said to the mayor at that time, you've just guaranteed me that if we have another high water level event, that I will be flooded. I understand that the city needs their access, but you've just flooded me out for sure. And I can't afford to be flooded out again. So then it was less than a week later, the rains did add up to the point where they were predicting flood levels of same as 2011, and it turned out that it was even higher. We were very thankful that the province did put up a Hasco dam on 457 so that it didn't cross over the road and flood us out again. I think their main reason for doing it was for the RCMP and also for your facilities here too, because in 2011, the RCMP was cut off. All your facilities were cut off as well. So it made sense for the emergency vehicles to have access. So then later in 2015, the province made an announcement they were going to build up not only 110, but they would also build up 457 here. And at that time, when they came and made their presentation to council, I was here to hear that. I was quite relieved to hear that the 457 would be built up. And as I talked to the MI representatives after the meeting outside, they told me that, yes, we're going to build a pad there by the culvert so that we can put a pump there. And then when we're going to put a gate on the culvert so that nothing will backfeed through. And then should there be rains and the watershed brings water to the other side, the north side, then we can pump it across the road. And so that was their plan. And I greatly appreciated that plan. So so then also 2017, we didn't have it quite as high, but there was danger of flooding. So then I came to, as soon as they announced that there was flooding, I came to Donna and I said to Donna, can we check with MI just to make sure that the plan is still in place? And so Donna sent letters off to them, emails, whatever. And we did receive an email back from Richard Christie, who was the I guess the road foreman at that time. And he said, yes, we will look after the pump and the ramp.
He was at that time the supervisor of the maintenance group.
Okay, so yes, so he knew that the plan was in place and he sent the email back to Donna here at the office, and so everything was good. And as it turned out, the water level, we did close the culvert, the gate was closed, but the water level didn't rise enough on the north side. Everything was in place, the pump was ready, the material for the ramps was ready, but we didn't need it, so that was good. So then I was relieved everything looks like we've got a good plan in place. So then in 2020, when we had those heavy rains and the Rivers Dam was in jeopardy, then we started talking about flooding again. So I was, John Elms was the new replacement for Richard Christie, as I understand it.
No,
No?
no, he's a foreman.
Okay, he's a foreman.
Jason Lawrence replaced Richard.
Okay. So anyways, I talked to John. He was at the culvert
Okay,
and he was new. I hadn't met him before. Nice guy. We had a nice conversation and he was making sure that the gate would open and close, which it did. And I said to him, "You got your pump ready?" He looks at me and says, "Oh, we don't do pumps for agricultural land." And I said, "Oh, well, I guess you don't know the previous, what's been happening in the past."
the history.
Yeah, the history here. And so he said, "No, but he said, I'll check into it." So a couple days later, I met him again there. And he says, "Yes, we do have for this culvert, we do have a pump and we will build a ramp." So I thought, okay, good, we're back on track. Fortunately, the water didn't come up and nothing had to happen. So that got me thinking, okay, what happens if we have another round of retirees at MI office,
Shift change.
whatever,
Exactly.
and who's going to remember this plan? So I phoned Antonio and I asked him if he could send me something in writing as to what the procedure was. Should we need to do something there? So he said, "I'll look into it and get back to you." He never did get back to me, but he did call and make arrangements with Donna to have meetings with you as a council. And I think you were all, that was this council.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And at first, it didn't sound like there was any acknowledgement from them that there was any plan in place. At least that's the impression I got when I chatted with Donna. And then when I pulled out the email from March 28th, 2017 from Richard Christie that they were in fact responsible for it, we didn't hear anything from them. So then, I think was it before Christmas or after Christmas? I was talking to either Donna or you, Mr. Reed. And shortly after that, in January, we got a letter from them with their procedure in place of how they're going to look after it. So I was greatly relieved to get a letter like that, or to have to see that letter. And as I read it, well, I still have some concerns. And the wording of it is well, let's see, where have I got it here?
Did you ever get a letter from the original agreement, Ed?
No, nothing was ever in writing. It was always verbal.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so there was never anything in writing there. I have to organize here. Two things that concern me in the writing of the letter, and you have a copy of that letter. I don't know if you have it with you.
Yeah, they
right
all
now.
have it in front of them.
Okay, number 5, where it says, we will provide a pump should the pump be available. Whoa. How am I to know if a pump is available? And what is going to happen if a pump is not available? What's plan B? Doesn't say anything about plan B. And I realize that they can't just earmark a pump to sit for that culvert. I mean, they use pumps all over the province. Maybe this spring we need it here. Maybe we don't, and then we use somewhere else. So if there's no pump available, what's going to happen then? And the other concern is the wording on the last line on the first page, where they say that the mandate or their priority is to provide access for the emergency vehicles, the RCMP, and the infrastructure of the road. So then my question is, well, if the road is intact, and the infrastructure of the road is intact, and the RCMP are able to travel, and your equipment is able to move, then what's to say that draining the water from the north side is a priority?
Right. And I think if my memory serves me correctly, that was how they had to word it, because like that first person said to you, they don't have a mandate to de-water agricultural land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my mind, that's an out clause.
Well, they couldn't, I don't think that they could actually put it in there. Right? Because that's not their mandate.
I hear you.
Yeah.
See, likely the way they're wording it is, look at their point of view.
Yep.
Say your land did flood
Mhm.
and they didn't do their due diligence with the way, if the wording was different on that letter.
Yeah.
Now it puts them at risk for being responsible for your land.
It puts them at risk, but it also gives them a clause where they're not bound. So, as I said, I'm thankful for that in place.
Yeah.
So that, I'm thinking a little bit more, and I'm watching what goes on when there's flood season. And then we see on 18th Street, this is what the city of Brandon does with the plug on Grand Valley. And they wait, putting a plug in is expensive. So they wait till the very last minute, and then they scramble and the water's rising, and yeah, we got it in place in time. And then it sits there, well, how long do we leave it in place, especially when the Rivers Dam was the issue? Well, you heard from your ratepayers what their thoughts were, that plug being in place. So putting in something permanent over here at this culvert would sure alleviate a lot of concerns for a lot of people. MI is busy. When it's flood season, they're busy. One little culvert isn't a huge thing in their mind. It's huge in for my business, my livelihood. So I think at one of your meetings with MI, there was discussion about putting a permanent pipe under the road bed. And then should the water level become high on the north side with the gate closed on the south side, then we could attach a small portable 3-inch pump to that and pump the water through, and everything would be good. One person could efficiently do that. It wouldn't take a lot of, once it's in place, one person could easily look after that. And being that I'm greatly affected by it, I would be volunteering to look after that. I'm not sure if you would allow me to or not, but that's the offer I have on the table. It does a couple other things. Building the ramp that was in place in 2014 on the flood then, the MI did a good job of signing that there was a hazard ahead. However, not everybody likes to read the signs and adhere to the signs. And so the ramp, the water line was a 6-inch water line. So we used a railway tie that was at least 7 inches high, and straddled the pipe with plywood, and then we built the ramp over. So the ramp was probably about 8 or 9 inches high. One morning when I went to check things, probably about 30 to 40 feet away from that ramp, there were gouge marks in the asphalt. Somebody had gotten airborne there as they drove over that ramp. So it can be a safety issue. A moving van, a semi, he lost his loading ramps as he went over because his trailer bottomed out. So the ramp is a bit of a concern, I think. But the other thing with the ramp is you wait, just like the plug at 18th Street, you wait till the very last minute to do it. And if that's on the weekend, well, there's your overtime charges that are astronomical to get it done. So I think the one-time cost of putting this in place would, I think MI would be happy not to have to worry about this anymore. It would basically be off their books. I think you as a, now to do this, it would obviously have to be done to specs that MI would approve of. And I think that could be done with a draftsman like Doug Burba. I think that's somebody that you've worked with in the past. He could draft something up. An engineer such as Dan Burns could easily verify that that would be correct. And I think MI would respect the wisdom of that, and it could be a possibility. The other thing is, I think as a municipality, you've already shown your concern to your ratepayers of agricultural land when it comes to flooding. There is a line in your budget about destruction of pests, and I think that means beavers. And typically a beaver is building a dam that's causing flooding. So you've shown that you have concern there. So this would be similar. I think you've also, when I looked through some of your minutes, you've also gotten involved with some tile draining of agricultural land. So, and I realize typically you like to do something that is going to benefit as many ratepayers as possible. In this case, basically it's one ratepayer. But I think for almost the 30 years I've been paying taxes here, most of the roads that I drive on in the municipality are either looked after by MI or your crew as they come and go from the shop. So a lot of my taxes have gone to help others in the municipality, and that's the way it is. I understand it, and I'm fine with that. But now I'm asking that even though I'm one ratepayer, I think you can justify putting a cost into doing something like this. And I'm sure as MI has accepted responsibility for doing it, they would probably, you'd be able to work with them in terms of getting some of the money back. Any questions?
We've been pretty busy here lately, but I've been waiting to have a meeting with the new, let's call him a manager for the new, he took over from Herbie Mahood.
Yeah.
Denise Jubenville was in his place for a while. Now she stepped down and a new guy is there, Kevin. I can't pronounce his last name or even think of it off the top of my head, Ed, but I've been wanting to have a meeting with him.
Kelvin Shavera.
Shavera, that's
Yeah,
right.
he was the one that wrote the letter.
Yes, he's the one that wrote the letter. Yeah. So once we get to that point where we can get together with him and sit down and talk over, this is one issue that I wanna run by him. The other one is that flood. And I don't think that it's fair that the city has control on that flood. I think it should be MIT, but that's just my personal thought. You know what I mean, on timelines, right? If the city's gonna do the expense of putting it in and out, it should be MIT that says at least, if nothing else, when it comes back out. But we did sit down and have a meeting with, correct me, Donna, if I'm wrong, it was Mike, Antonio, and Denise over this issue, right?
Mhm.
And I just can't remember exactly what came out of it, other than this letter.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that some of this stuff was, again, a concern to you until now. You know what I mean? So now, with this being on the table, I think we need to take the next step and meet with them again and see what we can, if we can convince them to put a pipe in, or whether they got some different ideas. I don't know. You know, so you're thinking of what, a 6-inch pipe, like a permanent one?
Yeah, something that they'll do, so last summer I did ask, when I chatted, so it was spring, I chatted with Dawn about it. And I asked her, is it okay if I would say do a little preliminary tire kicking and see what it would cost? And she said, yeah, go ahead. So I did call from Neepawa.
Can you forward that after your
Yep.
presentation
Yeah.
for Donna, Ed, and then we've got that information as well on hand?
Yeah, I contacted Rob Smith and Son Backhoe and Trucking from Neepawa. Of course, that was last April. So
Yeah.
at that time, they estimated directional drilling and installation of a 6-inch pipe, approximately $3,720. So I thought that was pretty reasonable. There was another company that does it east of or west of town, and they were, I think, over double that. So I didn't even record that. I figured that's not worth
They're in
mentioning.
Elton right now.
Really?
They did Elton's water line last year.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, because that's include labor and parts.
that's what they did at that time. But
Okay, well, that's.
Fuel cost, it'll be a little bit more.
and the pipe costs nowadays too. I mean, that was a year
Yeah,
ago and so yeah, installing it according to specs, having the standpipes according to specs, so that all that would be needed is attach the.
Okay, now you're saying to go by specs. Is that MIT specs?
Well, if we had
No,
somebody
an
like,
engineer.
yeah,
Like Denise, when she was here, she says, oh, that can't happen unless they're crossing the roads right now. Every water line in Manitoba
Yeah.
has to be, they were worried when I first brought it up, we're gonna drill into the road. I said, no, you have to go down 9 feet as per Manitoba Water Services Board spec. So once you go down 9 feet, that washout she was talking about, and then she did not, she said, yeah, you would have to treat it as a water line.
Yeah.
So whoever drills it has to
Be
follow.
able to do that.
yeah,
Right.
Oh, yeah, they can go as deep as they want.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, MI would have to have a engineer drawing, and that's where, when we asked Dan, he says it's the same spec as water serviceable.
Yeah.
They can't argue, once an engineer signs off on that. I mean, I
That's,
see no sense going back to Manitoba infrastructure. We've had about 4 meetings already.
I know.
You're just gonna rehash it. I honestly think council needs to make a decision. Are we prepared as a municipality to basically put a, you've mentioned Doug Burb, I think you said you knew Doug, eh?
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna, in fact, he just did some plans for us for the waste transfer stations, put a bit of a drawing together. Point A to point B, give it to Dan. Can he put in an AutoCAD? So, and you need a PE to sign off before
Yeah.
Denise or somebody. Yeah, and you can't blame it. I mean, you don't want to ruin the highway, so If you get that done, approach MI saying, we're gonna do it, then we can sit down. It needs to get done, and then we can discuss basically going after them for the funding. To sit down with them, you're just gonna waste another year, and with the amount of snow out there, it's very concerning. I can see what Mr. Cruz is talking about since 2011. It's 4 times now. We've had to,
Mr. Chairperson, if you do it upfront, pay for it upfront, and then go after them for the money, he will say.
yeah, so be it. At least we tried. I mean,
So what's wrong with, see how quickly they come to the table, that we have concern, we can say, okay, we met whatever, we want to know now what's going on.
It might be nice to ask them, give them the opportunity to see if they to put their input into it too, before we go and get an engineer and spend all that money. And it would be nice to get their input into it, what they need to sign off on.
Like the minimum.
engineer drawing.
Well, you're saying that, but we don't know what they're gonna
They're
recommend.
not gonna argue with an engineer. The water line, like, is already.
You haven't dealt with MIT like I have.
I mean,
But yeah, we need to take it to the next step.
Yeah. I mean,
for another meeting,
Well,
for another meeting that we had a year ago, almost to the date. With Antonio, Denise, and some other gentleman. We're gonna rehash the same thing. We know a 6-inch pipe works, because you said you used it once already, eh?
Yeah, the 2014 flood, I worked then together with your REAP at that time.
and it kept up.
And well, first we had a 6-inch line going across with a 6-inch pump over the road. That's where they built the ramp.
Yep.
And that was a bit of a,
Yeah.
I felt it was a safety issue. Before I plugged the culvert, I put one of my 5-inch irrigation lines through the aluminum pipes. And then we packed it with clay and sandbags. So then, once the 6-inch pump wasn't needed anymore, then I had fittings onto my 5-inch pipe, and then I ran a 3-inch pipe into that. So when the water still accumulated, it was low, and we were able to keep up, then I would just run a small pump, and it would just pushed it through the 5-inch pipe, and then it discharged it. Even though the water level was still higher, it still discharged it on the riverside.
Yeah.
And that's simple enough. I know that MI has concerns about the standpipes in terms of a vehicle going off the road and hitting it. I've got trees all along there that can be an issue. The ramp I thought was a bigger issue than a standpipe that would be right at the fence line, which usually people don't go that far into the ditch, but that can't happen. So I don't think it's a huge safety issue, but finally, what can you do to protect people from endangering themselves? I mean, they have to look after themselves too.
I mean, it has to be pumped. There's no other way of getting the water across. You can't pay it, let's not be paid. No, the lift station in Cheater does the same thing. When the water table comes up, the pump starts and it comes. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, lucky it's only down 3 feet because it's freezing up there. Water table, but that to me, an engineer, he'd have no problem. I just don't like the idea of getting MI involved, and we're busy enough as it is, and rehashing it. I'd say we need to make a commitment. What do we want as a council to do? What do we see happening here? Then go with our plan to MI and say, Mr. whatever it is here, Kevin, I've never met him. Does this plan look like it can be achieved? Would you guys sign off on? But it would definitely have to be stamped by an engineer. The only reason I think Doug Burrow comes into play, he's much cheaper than Dan Burns to just draw out the line, and then Dan just turns it into a engineering document.
Well, I think our next step would be to get a cost and go from there. So see what, allocate Donna to get a hold of, Burba and then get his drawing and then see what it would be to get it approved by Dan.
What did he charge out of the transfer station stuff? That was a site plan.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
I think it's $55 an hour.
Couple $100 or something.
Now, Donna, just, thinking about some of our drainage projects that we have that we were to get that insurance money,
Mhm.
would this qualify? Possibly?
It possibly could. Anything we put through, they just have to tell us yes or no, right? Just as
Yeah,
long as we
approve
have
it,
the
right?
plan,
They
it
have
has
to
to be
approve it.
approved.
But they'll want information with that.
Oh,
like
God, yeah, you have to.
What the damage was and, right, and stuff like that, or,
Well,
How does that
We need to
work?
know what the plan is and what the cost is.
okay.
because a lot of it, I think what they're talking is more preventative measures, I
Yeah.
believe. So I think this would be.
Under that category.
would fit really well with that program,
So just,
possibly.
just so my understanding of what it is that I think I understand that you want to do is, on this side of the road, we'd have a pipe that would come out of the ground this high. It would go down underneath the road and then it comes up on the other side, so that when we connect the pump on this side, the water shoots out.
That's
Yeah.
right,
It doesn't exhaust into existing water if it's flooded.
Right,
It'd be above. it.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
this
that's
side
what I-
has to be higher
Yeah,
than the top of the
Yeah.
road, so that's where you tell.
that's the way I understand it, right? Ed? That's what you were
Yeah.
thinking?
Well, the other side, the water can, it can be below water level and it'll still drain away.
More pressure on the pump though, no?
No,
Yeah, well,
no,
Okay,
pumps, it's the difference in elevation that
okay,
dictates the pressure.
okay. Well, let's get a hold of
Yeah.
Burma and get them to draw something up and then we'll go from there.
How many feet were you thinking, Ed, like from point A to point B?
well, the road allowance, I think, is 120 feet, isn't it?
But you'd probably want to be back, that's one thing they
Yeah.
probably don't want right close to the approach, they probably wanted. I would put it on our municipal property or on yours, that's what I would do. So
The more we can stay out of MIs
Yeah,
right away,
I
the
agree.
better it'll
Totally.
fly. The
Yeah.
better
I say
they'll
our
agree.
end is in the park, that
Yeah,
put it 20, 30 feet away or beside a tree or something.
yeah, that's right.
And then in the fall, you
And it
just
doesn't,
cap it.
and it doesn't have to be close to the culvert either. The suction can be by the culvert, but we can inject closer to this,
Yeah.
across the road here. Does that mean once you're, the underground line would just be right directly across the road, but getting to it, that doesn't matter. The pump can do that easily enough.
Yeah, I think that's the next step is to get Berber to draw it up and then give it, get them to look at it. If you need any changes and then go from there.
Very much appreciated.
Anything else?
Thank you for letting me come and.
Thank us when we get it in.
And realizing that it's a legitimate issue.
Yeah,
Ed will be talking to Doug, like you'll be talking to Doug, but let Ed point out where the approximate location.
have you got another copy of your presentation for Donna, or do you wanna copy it and then bring it over?
I can do that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I can do that, and I can send you I'll just forward that email from, that I got on, with respect to the price, yeah. from Ron
Okay.
Smith, yeah.
yeah, that would be good to put all that stuff together and try to give us a base figure
Yeah,
on what you did before.
and granted, that was last year. so-
Yeah, no, that's, no, it's just a
Fuel's
base
double
figure.
problem.
It's just a base figure, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, just to give us an idea, so it's not such a shock.
And,
Sort of.
yeah, and then a pump too, that's basically, and then the fittings to connect the two together, so it's actually quite simple.
Yeah, I think that's the next step is to look into that way and then go from there.
So then when there's a flood, it takes one person to just go and set it up and monitor it.
So will we need a mover and a seconder to give you,
I'll make a motion for committee authorizes CEO to contact Doug Burba that will discuss the location of the pipe and to get us a drawing.
and stamped,
What's that?
and stamped?
Well, no, what Doug will just draw it, then Donna gives that to
Yeah, okay.
Dan, because
Yeah, okay,
Dan will cost you a lot of money, a lot more money, they're about $300 an hour, they
yeah,
try to keep the cost down for us. And then Dan will have to write a letter of intent.
and you got that, Donna?
Administration to contact Doug Burba to do up a drawing or to get a cost. Administration to contact Doug Burba to get a cost to produce a drawing for the installation of a drainage pipe under 457.
We'll need a seconder for that. Emil, anybody wish to speak to that? Or if we did already, I'll call for the question, all in favor.
Thank you.
Maybe pipe under 457.
Good, Nora?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you,
Thanks,
appreciate it.
New business, right?
Well, I do have a motion to accept.
Oh, for the letter.
presentation. Yeah,
Okay,
I move that.
You're okay.
Presentation be
Yeah.
accepted.
as presented.
Yeah.
We'll need a seconder for that. Anybody wish to speak to that? Call for the question, all in favor. You're good.
Okay, now you're officially here.
Pardon me?
Now you're officially here.
Well, yeah, summer when you gave me the conditional use, I kind of ran out for you. When you vote with that, that's in, you know, off I go and every like, oops. Thanks.
okay,
New business, right?
new business.
Okay,
Public works update.
Public Works update. Pete, are you awake?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good.
Well, it's been an interesting winter, the last couple of months, I would say. We've been busy, especially since this is the second time, I think the second time that we only have one grader, but we manage, we make it work. My grader seems to have problems with the DEF delivery into the engine or into the cleaning system, whatever it is. So they replaced some parts before, and now there are other parts in order that they're going to replace, and then I'll get it back. But we make it work if need be. We'll work 24/7, which it looks now long-term forecast looks like we might not be necessary to do that, but we have done it in the past, and we'll do it again if we need to. We've kept the roads open, kept the complaints to a minimum, and so far so good, I would say. I got an offer from Coco, from Russell Ready Mix. They want to supply us with 40 yards of gravel on all the roads they use for all the way from basically their pit to 340, which would be 5, 6, 7 miles, I think. So I think we should gladly accept that offer. It might not be gravel to our spec per se, but it's free gravel. I think we should take them up on that. And so, I mean, that they offered to do that as soon as restrictions are on, which we all think will be on in a week or maybe 2 weeks. And then we have gravel sitting in a pile with Daryl that we haven't paid for, but it's there for us to use. 5,000 yards that we can throw on those roads too, because they've seen quite a bit of deterioration. So we have to do something there before they get going again. So we can use that up, plus it would be probably 300 yards. So I think that would be a nice benefit. I still think we should consider taking Kissack Road out of the haul road. I mean, that's another road for them to go. Because that road is really not good enough to be a haul road. I brought that up last time, and I'll bring it up again. We should definitely consider to just eliminate that one as a haul road, going east from Whiten, I would suggest. So that's something to look at. Other than that, I mean, we're gonna be getting ready for some culvert cleanouts and things like that. So, flood is coming. I hope not, but I think there will be a flood. some places. So try to get ready for it. But we may have to get a high-o in or an excavator in to clean out some culverts, where there's excess snow in front of them. And we'll have a look at that. We'll go around, Alan and I, and if it really gets to that point that we have to get busy with the culverts, then I suggest we bring Shane back because he knows, honestly, he knows the culvert sizes and all that better than I do and better than Alan does. So, but until then, I think we can manage. That's about all I got, really.
Pete, put on your
Yeah.
list, you probably have the low level crossing, well, it's not even a low level crossing anymore, over here at the Friesens.
Yeah, I don't know what to do there, Sam. I was there last fall. I looked at it. It's definitely not a low level crossing. It's a steep ditch, and they had problems getting through it to get to the other side with a water truck because it was so dry. They were feeding their horses or watering their horses on the other side. But with an empty truck, you can drive through it. It's fine. But I offered them. I said, well, how about we fill it in like 3 feet and it makes it easier to get through. But they don't want that. They want the level where it is now because that safeguards their property. So I honestly, instead of putting in a huge culvert, that's the only option I can see. It's leaving it at the level it is, putting in a big culvert, but then we have to deal with licensing and all that. So I don't know what else
Can
to
you
do
look
there.
at it, can you look at it a different way, Pete? They want it, the bottom of that drive-through at the level it is now, you said.
Yeah.
Okay, would it make a difference if we tapered off each edge to make it like a low crossing at the
Yes.
level it is?
Yeah.
Would that
But
be better?
you have to realize we're looking at something that's probably, I would have to guess, probably 8 feet deep, if not more. So we would have to go back and we would have to rip up the asphalt on either side and go back probably, I don't know, probably to make it really like a what we want it to be. We would have to go back probably 25, 30 feet on either side, and that the asphalt is still coming up to it on either side. So we would have to rip that up, move a lot of material. It's doable, but is that what we want to do? I don't know. I don't know. That's quite a big project, and I
Well,
think maybe a big enough culvert, and then just fill it in. I think that might be the better
No, you
solution.
need culverts, Peter. Like,
Well, whatever it takes, whatever it
it's the
takes.
same, well, up here or sorry, two big ones on Curtis,
Not Curtis.
you have to match those because.
not
and
Curry,
more.
Lori.
Lori, sorry, you're right, sorry about that. So you got two on Lori, then you've got all that water in between it's coming down, so you're gonna need a water study. Why not just put that just what you did in, I think it was 11 or 14, a low level crossing, and that would actually still work, Pete. If you remember, what caused the issue was the ice jamming on those two culverts that came up.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we went in to dig it deeper and we never fixed it properly. I think if you would take it back to that original state that you and whoever did it for you, I think it will work because now you don't have the culverts issues on Veterans Way or 457. That's
Yeah.
my thing. I think Pete, you did it worked.
Yeah, it did. I think the level it is now is probably close to the level at the bottom of the culverts on Veterans Way.
Well, then going deeper doesn't help you anything. I agree
No,
with you.
no. But what I'm saying, Sam, is right now that is probably 8 feet down from where the road level is. So that's not a low crossing level anymore. That's more than that. So we have to go way back to make that, and we can do it. We can do it. We can rip up the asphalt. We don't need it. It's not being used anymore. It's definitely doable, but it is a project.
Oh, I agree.
I'll tell you what, I think what we need to do is sit down and assess what it would cost to do either
Yeah.
one. Because an engineering study for drainage, license and culverts is gonna be really expensive.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that tapering it off likely, I'm thinking would be a better way and a cheaper way of doing it. And then that way we don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah, and
True enough,
I know
true enough.
everybody's saying licensed drainage. You have to think, Peter, there's 2, maybe even 3 culverts underneath there anyways. They're plugged,
Yeah.
they're useless, okay? And that's why I'm a bit confused why Denise is saying you have to have an engineering or a drainage license. Well, the intent was all along for 50 years, those culverts are there, but they're 90% plugged. That's why.
Is it, you're talking Jubaville?
Yeah, when she was here, we challenged her on it. It's there.
But is that not the other government agencies as well?
Well,
on
it is,
drainage?
and
She's just quoting them for
because it
a
would
drainage
require a
study
drainage license to put a culvert
and
in.
study, right?
No, to put a culvert in, we're not asking for culvert. We're basically saying, just like Pete's saying, just tapered back, so the elevation.
That's what I said.
Mhm, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, Peter.
That's what I said.
Yeah, but,
To taper it
Yeah, it doesn't
back
matter who
so
said
that-
it.
To make it a low level crossing at the level it is now.
so they can drive
Yeah.
across with a truck.
That's
Now,
exactly
you,
right. And
you
not bottom.
also heard Denise, and that's why I'm a little upset or frustrated with MI. How did we inherit that parcel anyways, is the question I got. That was never RM property. It's when they did that 110, they handed it to us and say, we've washed our hands, but yet it's flooding out.
No different than 344.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, Pete, no, I didn't mean for you to go in and fix it now, Peter. Just keep your eyes open. You might
Yeah, but
have to
you're
call
right.
back.
You're right about that, Sam. You're right about that. It was just forced onto us, basically.
But just to put it on a checklist, like a whiteboard.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's things to do, keep an eye on it, so the freezes, when they see the water coming, you will have taken care of it.
Yeah, no, well, my opinion is we can avoid anything to do with licensing and all that stuff. I mean, and we can just taper it off. But then again, there's a cost to it. You have to realize that. It's kind of the same as what Ed was just there for. It's a cost, right? That a cost to the municipality for basically one person. Comes down to the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little bit different. This water is coming all the way from Elton, so it's not just one person. We have to allow that water to flow from its natural.
Yeah, but it's not flooding anybody out but one person.
Oh, yeah, but they're taxpayer people.
So it's yeah, okay. So, but what I'm saying it's I'm not saying anything negative about it. If we want to do it, we do it. But it's basically the same thing as what Ed was just saying there.
I totally agree with you, Peter.
We look after it or we don't, and I think we should. But
And I would actually, to bind you, and they're gonna have 9 meetings. I don't even know if we own it, but basically we've gone in there twice now that I'm aware of to clean out, so the Friesen's basement doesn't flood. It flooded once because of the MI.
Well, we sandbagged there.
Yeah, last year, in 20, you're right, the hockey
We
players.
sandbagged
yeah.
to help them. And they've got a dike, their own dike. You know,
Well,
but
they've got
we
the
still,
problem fixed now.
we still sandbag.
Yeah, they've got the issue was those culverts lifted up and that was the dike. So now they've got that
That
resolved.
hasn't been proven yet. We're hoping that it's proven. It's fixed.
Well, it's 5 feet.
how about how about if I get a cost estimate on tapering it off so it is exactly what it is now, except easier to get through.
Excellent,
Sure, that's what you're
excellent.
thinking.
I like that idea.
You know, you could.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that.
They do that.
Yeah, we
Yep.
can probably get it done.
They do a lot of that.
Yeah,
That might not hurt to check with them too, Pete. Donna can help you out with the contact information, likely.
Okay,
For conference. Oh, I can't talk anymore.
The Watershed District.
The watershed district, yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, we'll go that way.
one more, Pete, once you're done.
Yeah. Okay,
Can you check the shape of your sandbag devices? You know, those PVC that we made in 2011? The
Yeah,
last
once,
time, they were pretty rotten looking. So just,
honestly, I don't, they're behind the shop. I haven't even, honestly, I totally forgot about those things, but yeah, we'll dig them out. Because we'll
just
probably
then
need
make
them.
new ones. Make new ones. for pressure
We'll
treated.
make new ones. Yeah, that's not
Someone
an
actually
issue.
borrowed those last year.
Yeah, I took them somewhere, I brought them back. Where did I take
Yeah.
them?
Another company came and got them too and used them twice, I think it was
Okay.
last year, yeah.
I took them, I delivered them to somebody, I
Yeah.
forget who it was. But yeah, we may as well get pipe and get new ones made. It shouldn't be
Yeah,
much.
I think we have lots of pipe, so that's not an issue. Some 2x6s and whatever, we can make new ones. Yeah, we'll do that.
And sandbags can, between the two,
Mhm.
see how many are available, or if there are even some available.
I think we still have probably, I can't remember how many of them in a bundle, but I think there's probably half a bundle left. So maybe we should order some new ones.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Wasn't it 5,000 on a pallet feet?
Something
I don't know
like
how big
that.
a pallet
I forget.
Yeah, I think there's probably 1,000 in a bundle.
Okay, I thought it was 5,000 per pallet, but I'll let you.
Yeah, but that'd be five bundles in up on a pallet. So
I would order a pallet or.
yeah, we just throw them up top in the shop in the shed there, and they'll be good to go.
Yeah,
There'll be other people
yeah,
wanting them.
exactly.
Yeah, but we still have. I'm sure we have. I don't know, probably a couple of thousand, I would think. But
You're probably right, Peter, but just get your inventory up, but
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
the number should be on Donna's 11, 14, see what you ordered, Donna, and
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah, let's get another pallet, and then we're good to go. And I'll get those pipes. I'll see what we got left and see what came back, and we either replace them or we build new ones or whatever we do. We'll have a look at them.
Right.
Hopefully we don't need all that stuff, but you know what? It might happen.
Better be prepared and
Yeah.
reacting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 4.3 or round table. That's kind of what we're
You have
doing.
anything else?
Do you have anything else, Pete?
No, that's about it. That's about it.
Okay.
I
Okay,
got a few points for roundtable.
okay.
Start.
Thank you for your presentation, Pete, by the way.
You're welcome.
Just a couple, bring chain back as early as possible, so we can sort of inventory. What we have to do, culverts, healthy, whatever, really sport. And with other things. The second one is, the committee should look at realigning all roads, Whiten, Curry's Landing and Kissel. See where we can shorten them, or have the gravel pit owners use as much as the biggest Howell road whatsoever. Then redo the bylaw. And the other point is,
Mr. Chairperson, that's a good idea, Councilor Rosenberg, but you may as well look on the other side too. Look-
well, no, like the whole, our roads. And the other point is, we will be left with sort of a sand track that was called Magazine Road and something similar Whiten Road. I propose and recommend that we take $200,000 out of the gas tax money and redo Magazine Road completely and take $50,000 out of the gas tax and do the same thing in Whiten. This way, it sort of takes a little pressure off our budget. They have to be done completely redone from the bottom, so we can take money out of the gas tax. And I would like council or the committee to look at that and then see what we can do. And also, like for this year, the early year, it's fairly late to have an engineer going in and assess the roads. He can do some short work for the rebuilding of the two roads, but in the meantime, come, let's say, and Pete, you can help me, probably about August, September for winter or fall, whatever, reevaluate the whole, like all the roads we have, the main roads, not just the all roads, but all the one. And then we can earmark them like decent roads, better roads, this needs to be done and so on, and carry it over into next year and have a plan, whatever we
Right.
want to do.
Mr. Chairperson, I will not support that. Now you're telling the ratepayers, there's a few ratepayers that are using Magazine Road. Now you're asking the ratepayers basically to use the gas tax money, which is, it's okay for that, to subsidize gravel haulers. That's basic what you're saying. Any council that will support that really needs to
Mr. Chair,
rethink. Yeah.
Mr. Chairperson, it is right. It does not matter. The gas tax money is by population. And also, we started putting money in there and so on. And if we had to wait till our bylaws in place, if we have to wait till the province moves forward, whatever, it's probably about, from our side, can be done in a year, but all the rest, there is no support. And I don't want those ratepayers out there, as little as they are, or as many as they are, driving on insufficient roads. And I don't have a plan. This is a council makes a decision. You can vote against it whenever it comes forward, and we can discuss it.
Yeah, so you're doing that for the gravel haulers, correct?
I'm not doing it for the gravel rollers. I'm doing it for the people that live on those roads, drive over
On
those roads.
Magazine.
On Magazine, on Viking, and so on.
No,
Yes,
there's not a chance I will support.
okay,
Now, we have an opportunity to, we heard it from the three professionals. Folks, in fact, there's a resolution typed up for the city lagoon. We need to start thinking for the users or the beneficiaries. Who is gonna benefit from that road the most is the heavy trucks. So we need to put, in my opinion, find ways to put the onus back on those gravel haulers. Yes, there's residents out there, but let's write up a resolution for regular council meeting and budget. for it.
Mr. Chairperson, that's correct. But also to get those different people to pay whatever they're wrecking is next to impossible, in my opinion, unless you want to take them court.
Pete, when did they want to put that, refresh my memory? Was it 400 yards on?
It was 40 yards per, it's just a small, it's 40 yards per mile and it's 7 miles we're thinking of. So that's, let's say, make it 300 yards. So it's not a huge deal. And they'll put it on whenever I probably tell them to put it on. I mean, if that's the offer they made, and we'll have to do this.
Is that on Whiten or is that on Magazine?
They were going to go all the 7 miles, 40 yards per mile. So I said, well, hang on a second here. We might have to look at that. Would you be willing to put it where I would tell you to put it? It said, yeah, that's not an issue. We're giving you those yards. Put them wherever you want them. So we have that 5,000 yards sitting there, ready to go. We can put that on as soon as restrictions are off. Hopefully, the pile's not frozen. It shouldn't be. And then we can either decide to throw that's higher clay material. We can throw 40 yards of their material on over top, or we can just say we do 3 miles, 4 miles ourselves, and the other 300 yards goes on the next miles. We can vary whatever we want to. So
Pete, can you put a plan in writing in place for council? Like to put gravel here and there isn't a very good plan. Identify.
No.
Where you suggest this gravel should be dropped.
Well, we have 4 miles that are definitely wearing way faster than the other 3 miles. So our 5,000 yards should probably go to those 4 miles. And then the last 3 miles to the east, farther to the east, they've been clay capped. They're holding up pretty good. But there's another 300,000 yards from Cocoa alone coming out. I asked them, 300,000 tons. I asked him that, well, this year, going south. That's what I asked him. Said, how much are you guys still moving out? They said another 300,000. And then they have another contract for riprap with another 30,000. Colette is hauling out 100,000 tons. So it's an ongoing thing. It keeps going and going and going. So, you know, maybe. So it
So I'm
wouldn't
hearing
be,
400,000 yards, Pete?
yeah, probably 400,000 tons,
Sorry, no.
which would be, what would that be? 400,000 would probably be 300,000 yards, right? 2,600 pounds, let's say 2,600 pounds to a yard. A ton is 2,200. So, you know, it's,
What approximately, have you and Donna discussed if that number is correct? What is that in dollars for road levy and?
no, we haven't. No. I just learned about the 300,000 today or yesterday. So, um, whatever, I mean, it keeps changing. I mean, the government keeps opening up new contracts, and so it keeps changing. There's constantly new contracts coming out, it seems. So it's hard to, we can have a number today and might be different tomorrow. So maybe that's another thing I was thinking of. Maybe we should just do the absolute minimum right now to the roads, let them finish the job, and then do repair the roads to where it should be.
Pete, I think the first thing you have to do is send an engineer out there before 1 penny is spent from taxpayers. Let's get an assessment. He might come back and
That's
say.
yeah, but that's the first taxpayer dollars you're spending.
Or that, let's not spend any money before we get a true assessment from our engineer, and I do believe he's working on it.
Okay, all right, well, okay, we can do that. So you're saying holding off putting any gravel down when there's restrictions come on until we have a report from him.
So if they're offering you gravel, put it in writing and give it to Don and find out where we're putting this gravel. Make sure it meets our spec, is my opinion, if it's free gravel.
Is there a
And then-
timeline on that gravel?
I have no information on that gravel. They offered us 40 yards per mile, which is not. We're not talking about huge dollars here. It's just a nice gesture more than anything. I mean, and maybe that's kind of sweetening the pot because that, we all know they're trying to get into another pit. So, maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know, but anyways, it's 300 yards basically. It's not a huge amount. If we don't want to
wrap this up, we're gonna have to wrap it up, Pete, because we're after
Okay.
7 already, and we've got an audience, so I don't want to hold them up either.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll
So
need to
you guys
move.
go.
Go ahead.
You guys are moving into the next meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome. Bye.
We need a mover and a seconder to adjourn, right? I'll move. Kurt's gonna second. I'll call for the question, all in favor. What did we get into right here? I will call the meeting to order.
I'm not even there
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
Sorry.
Let me know when you're in.
Okay, Bill.
Okay, good. I'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. I would make one request that you could put your cell phones on silent or vibrate, and we will carry on. Confirmation of the minutes. We'll need a mover and a seconder.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Anybody wish to speak to that? I'll call for the question, all in favor. Adoption of the agenda.
Mr. Chairperson,
I make the motion that the agenda be adopted and presented with the exception of items 11.4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and that those items be forwarded to the appropriate committees.
We'll have a second for that.
I'll second that.
Anybody wish to
Mr.
speak to
Chairman, let's discuss it. We have to be, they are on the agenda. I'd like to make a friendly amendment to remove 11.5, and I'd like to add engineering services for that city lagoon, so there's two different resolutions. That's resolution that I asked the CEO to put on the agenda, and I think we have to have unanimous to have them removed, so I'm not gonna vote on having them removed.
Mr. Chairperson, we have one resolution on the agenda. We have an amendment. We haven't voted on the amendment yet. And I don't think we should, because it's a simple forward. And the same way then Councillor Hofer the last time moved part of his agenda to a different part of the agenda. And it's a simple procedure. It's, we don't take those off the table. We forward them to the appropriate committees. They will be discussed there, and then we bring it forward to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairperson, these motions are on the agenda. They've been, I met the timeline last Wednesday. I was communicating with the CEO. The resolutions are right in front of them, and I will not support removing them. In fact, I think, I'm not sure if we can, if we have a unanimous, you have to go by unanimous.
No, you
And I will
don't,
vote
Mr.
against.
Chairperson, you don't. If you want to add something to agenda, then you have to keep anonymous. But to remove points from the agenda, you don't.
So you've already discussed that.
I did not discuss
Okay, that's
anything.
good. No, I will not
First
support
time.
removing, those are very important items. I will support removing 11.5 because I think we need more discussion on that.
Mr. Chairperson, this is the council. There's 5 votes.
Okay. Says the draft agenda for each meeting is prepared by the CEO together with copies of supporting shall be at least 48 hours preceding copy of the draft. All items placed on the agenda of the next regular meeting of council must be provided at least by 12 noon, 6 days prior. At a regular meeting, no subject matters other than those received and placed on the agenda in accordance with the provisions of 7.1 shall be taken into consideration unless all members are present and the members unanimously agree by resolution of the adding of items,
Yeah.
the adding of items.
So we can remove it, we can remove as many items as you want to.
Yeah, it's the adding of the items is what item 7.2 says.
So, Mr. Chairperson, the question is to you now. Why can the Zoom meeting policy not be discussed today? Going to a committee meeting, all you're doing is wasting taxpayers' money and time. The city lagoon sludge, that's
Mr.
very important.
Chairperson, we
Mr.
have a
Chairperson.
resolution on the floor. There's nothing there that we have to discuss whatever the different points are. I mentioned the points, they're on the agenda, just one line, and as it says, we are not discussing any points, whatever brought forward, and that is the law.
I'll call for the question. To move those two committees.
It's correct.
All in favor? Opposed?
Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second.
Yep, no problem.
Mr. Chairperson, just a question. While the CEO is getting ready, let us know. At committee meetings, do councilors charge in them like hourly wage and mileage when they go to committee meetings? Mr. Chairperson?
Mileage, yes.
Mileage?
No.
If the committee meeting is held on a council meeting night, then there
It's
is no
covered.
No,
additional.
but if a committee meeting is called for tomorrow, do counselors charge hourly indemnity wages and mileage to come to that meeting, if it's called outside of a regular scheduled council meeting?
Yes, that's part of your
That's good.
indemnity bylaw.
Mr. Chairperson, I'm not charging mileage and I'm not charging hourly, whatever it is.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready then. So item 4.1, public hearings. And we have one public hearing this evening. The public hearing is for a variation application VO-01-22-C, the southeast quarter of 17,919 WPM. Applicant is Shaban. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive representation from the applicant and any persons who wish to make them respecting variation application number VO-01-22-C, being an application to vary the application of the municipality zoning bylaw by varying the maximum fence height from 6 feet, 1.83 meters to 10 feet, 3.05 meters in the rear yard in the Ag 80 agricultural general zone. We will first hear from Keystone Planning District, then from the applicant, then from those persons present who wish to make representation, starting with anyone who wants to speak in favor of the proposal. At the end of the other presentations, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. If in the response, the applicant supplies new information or raises new issues, then the others will be given an opportunity to speak again. At the end of each presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker on any fact or issue, but will not enter into a debate. Persons speaking must address the chair. If they have questions that they think the applicant should answer, they should raise them in their presentation to the chair. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions when the other presentations are finished. Go
Okay,
ahead, Barb.
the request is coming from Omar and Tamara Shaban. They're the applicant owners. They've applied to vary the application of the Arm of Cornwall zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016 with respect to 112-083 PR 349 in Southeast 17,919 within the AG 80 agriculture general zone as follows. They want to vary the maximum fence height from 6 feet being 1.83 meters to 10 feet being 3.05 meters in the rear yard at the Southeast 17,919 within the AG 80 agriculture general zone based on the Arm of Cornwall zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016, which states Part 3 general provisions. Number 1, the intent, the general provisions contained in this part shall apply to all zones except where and otherwise provided. And number 2, the projections into required yards. The following may be located in a required yard. And we just go down to number D, which says sidewalks, driveways, and parking spaces, except that in no case may a wall, fence, or planting create a wall-like effect higher than 3.5 meters, being 1.07 meters in the front yard, or 6 feet, being 1.83 meters in the side or rear yards. The variance process has been reviewed with the applicant. The applicant has received a copy of this report and has also been advised to attend the hearing. All statutory requirements in accordance with section 169 of the Planning Act have been met. For consideration then, in accordance with section 97(1) of the Planning Act, directs council as follows. After holding the hearing, the council must make an order either rejecting the requested variance or varying the application of specific provisions of the zoning bylaw with regard to the affected property in the manner specified in the order if the variance will be compatible with the general nature of the surrounding area, will not be detrimental to the health and general welfare of people living or working in the surrounding area, or negatively affect other properties or potential development in the surrounding area. Is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property? And number 4 is generally consistent with the applicable provisions of the development plan bylaw, the zoning bylaw, and any secondary plan bylaw. The recommendation is that subject to consideration of the foregoing and of presentations made during the public hearing, and provided council is satisfied the variance will meet the criteria of the item B above, that the application be approved as follows. That variance application VO-01-22-C with respect to 112-083 PR 349 in Southeast 17-919, subject to the following conditions. Number one, to vary the maximum fence height from 6 feet to 10 feet, being 1.83 meters to 3.05 meters in the rear yard at the Southeast 17-919 within the AG 80 agriculture general zone. And number two, an up-to-date plan of survey prepared by a registered land surveyor is required, which shall contain sufficient information regarding the site and the location of any buildings to establish before construction begins that all requirements of the code in relation to this information will be complied with and will confirm the property lines prior to construction of the fence. And to verify upon completion of the work that all such requirements have been completed, a legal survey certificate is required to confirm the fence, once completed, is within the property boundary. Number three, fence construction detail required showing size of posts, depths of post burial, spacing of posts, size and spacing of connecting members to with the development application. And number four, all required permits to be obtained through Keystone Planning District.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can we have a motion to go into public hearing?
Could we have a motion to go into public hearing? And we'll go in a second. No, for,
Please.
I'll call for a question all in favor. Sorry.
That's okay.
So now we need to bring the, does anyone have
Yeah.
questions?
I've got some question.
Mhm.
We got these guidelines for in our existing plan. Is it similar to the city of Brandon? Like the fence heights and all that?
They are, well, this is our zoning bylaw.
Yeah,
This is the Round of
yeah.
Cornwallis. This hasn't changed, so we'll still use prior to us becoming Keystone Planning.
Yeah,
So it's been in effect for
Yeah, so it's-
2016.
most likely the city of Brandon and this bylaw is
It's
probably
probably very similar.
very
yes.
similar
Yes.
because we were part of the Brandon. area.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because our development plan still goes off of BAPD until we get
Yeah.
averaged down. So yes.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Anybody else have questions for Bert? I think you're good. Thank you.
Would the applicant wish to speak to the application?
Come on up and sit down.
I really don't have anything to say, except that we were told to put the application in.
Yeah.
And it just, we have a lot more between on the north side of our property, a lot more than that, like distance wise. But we, right behind our house, you can see there's at least 6 feet snow past even the existing wire fence right now. So that's the only thing
Mr. Chairperson.
Yeah.
How far is it from the fence line, like where you put up the fence, doesn't matter which height, to the property line on that side?
we have a
Lovely.
fence already,
Yeah, no, but from the fence
new-
that's there
the
to
new
the
fence?
property line, like
The
how
new
many
fence?
yards? Yeah,
the new fence.
Yeah.
Whatever, I mean, if you ask me to go 5 feet away from the existing one, that's fine. You
Yeah.
ask me for 2 feet,
no, just where's the property line behind your property where you want to put the fence up? Like you have the fence here, and the property line is over there.
well, it will show on the.
It's very close.
So that's, yeah, okay, so that's, good. No, no, no. And did you talk to your neighbors on that side?
Our neighbors on the other
Did we
side,
talk to them in what regard?
Yeah, that you're trying to put a bigger fence in.
no, we didn't. Over the years, when we bought the property, we were there more than a year and 2 and 3. They had hay bales in there,
Okay.
so they moved them now.
Yeah, so
So
the
there
shelter.
wasn't anything
Yeah.
coming.
Now we're
from
noticing that
or
it's really
anything.
windy.
So this year, like the snow, I mean, it's still there.
I know on my son's property, whatever, the dog, whatever, before he could, but now it goes and he's gone. Because of the 4 or 5 feet, whatever, yeah. What a wonderful question.
That's what happens is the snow fills in and then the dog goes over the fence. Is
No,
that-
the
Not
snow,
there.
the dogs,
There's
they
no
have,
dogs in that area.
they
in the
have
winter
dogs
Because they can't
too.
get in, it's too
we have
heavy.
big dogs and we have small dogs, but they do have dogs. And I don't want,
Yeah, yeah.
I put on even over the barbed wires, I put the stucco wire. So the little dogs cannot even go anywhere.
Okay.
But the fence, the way the snow is, nothing I can, can do.
They're not out there.
They're not out
So it's just in the summer that they're in that back pasture.
Yeah, yeah. Has anybody else got any questions for them?
Just a comment, I guess. So you're more or less wanting to do this for privacy.
Well, it's a wind shelter, you know, it's a wind shelter.
Shelter.
Yeah, wind.
So it doesn't knock my flower beds over in boxes, the wind. My tomatoes don't go.
There's nothing else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone online who would like to speak in favor of the application?
I'm your neighbor on the west side,
Could you say your name?
Sandra Boado,
Thank you.
and I find that they have our side of the trees that cut the wind from the west side, but from the north side, it's very cold, especially with the sportex that we had this winter. It's crazy, and in the summer when it's windy, it's pretty windy, and it's pretty bad at night. So we have, behind our house, we have trees, lots of trees, and we have trees on both sides, on our property, so it cuts the wind, but they don't have any on the north side. So that fence would be a good thing for the wind and especially for the sound also. When they separate the cows from the calves, it's pretty, it makes it doesn't bother, but it does at night, for sure. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the application? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the application?
Come on up to the front. Say your name.
I'm Kristen Lang Greenish. Kristen Lang Greenish.
Thank you.
And I'm her husband, Brian.
Okay,
We own the property line directly north of Omar's,
okay.
southeast 17919.
Good evening, Chair. In accordance to the Brandon Area and Planning Bylaw number 2, projections into the required yards that no wall may be exceed 6 feet or the 1.83 meters on the rear or side yard. I, Kristen Lang Gremish of Southwest 17919 East, speaking on behalf of my husband Brian, daughter Brittany, and her partner David, who all reside on this property, believe that the request of a 10-foot high fence at 500 feet in length goes against the general nature of the surrounding area and will be detrimental to the welfare of our livestock and the people who are working within the adjacent area of question. The 10-foot structure will negatively affect the other property that house a livestock facility within the community for over 30+ years. This 10-foot fence structure that is in question will be detrimental to our property with negatively effects not only on our driveway, but within our cattle and horse corrals because of the prevailing winds that are normally from the northwest. According to the Agriculture Canada, this is a 10-foot fence would be in effect causing up to and over exceeding 10 to 15 times the amount of snow buildup on our property, causing it to be within our corrals that house our cows to have newborn calves. There isn't a person within our community that have a country-style 10-foot fence around their building that don't house any livestock. Cattle or livestock windbreak fences are not 10 feet high in height because they are not ideal for the prairie agriculture use. Maximum agriculture windbreak fence is in 8 feet guidelines. Your request of 10 feet goes over and above and beyond any Agriculture Canada guidelines, especially since there is a mature tree boundary line between our properties where said fence is going to be. My questions to you are as follows. Do we get a devise on a start date of the project if you guys pass it by the RM of Cornwallis office? My question is, why is the fence only 500 feet long on the north side? Only if this is to keep the pets on the property, as said the order of their request. The existing barbed wire fence that has also been on the property for many years was adjusted with page wire fence to keep pets on either side of owned property. Unbeknownst to our knowledge at the time. We do get a voice in what type of fence is built if said fence is going forward. The reason of my question is as follows. For a 10-foot solid wooden fence, the negative snow buildup would be on the north side of the fence, which is our livestock property, causing our equipment not to pass through and for access to have our livestock for feeding, calving, and our animal welfare. A solid wooden fence drifts up to and steaming drifts backwards. A fence with 20% open and 80% wooden boards cause less snow buildup on the property. We wish to not exceed the mandatory height for any surrounding fence along our property fence. We also believe it would be in the best interest for any existing fences to be standalone fences, as this has caused many issues with our livestock, having their safety with the shorting out of our electrical fences around our property when the page wire has been installed and gone over onto our side of the fence, like over top. That was installed with our existing fence and without our prior knowledge or discussion. We do have a copy of all written documentation on the said fence and the land survey documentation if you move forward. As per your bylaws on your website, it states that all neighboring landowners be advised in advance of any changes made to property or the boundaries with the existing fence lines. My additional questions that are said to yourself or the owners of the existing property that this fence is going to is, why do we need this size of fence? What is their benefit of this fence? What types of animals do they own, or how many, for being able to keep into this fence? Because in their documentation, they said pets jumped over the fence. It would currently jump over the existing fence. Well, the existing fence is 4 feet high, and my German Shepherd can't jump over that. From your letter of intent, it also states in your letter, particular fence, what I said, jumping over the fence, when that I don't think is in the question of the reason why this fence is. I think it's more of having access on both sides and for wind barriers, which our existing established barnyard warrants that, from having 100-foot long shed with the snow at the back of it. But if we have a 10-foot fence that is going along the property line and the tree row, that will infringe not only with the snow in the wintertime, but especially in the springtime when we have the melting of the snow, and then have the ability with our animals and livestock and the newborn calves getting sick with excess water and runoff from the snow. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
I do, yes. She kind of touched both bases. My question was, what was the purpose of the fence? I think Omar said it's for windbreak. I'm going to jump ahead quickly. My driveway from Omar's fence is approximately less than 75 feet. His fence is where my driveway is back and forth on the north side of his fence. I plow that with snow. I'll say to Omar, your fence on your side and snow is not that deep because your plumber was there yesterday and unplugged your pump out. And the pump out is 18 inches above the ground. There is not 18 inches of snow in there. I've been there for 20-some years plowing snow. So there's not going to be snow there. There's snow at the northwest corner, but welcome to Manitoba. That's part of farm life. That's part of agriculture. He's been there 3 years. He has not planted any trees. He has done nothing. So in essence, my facility, my cattle shed is 115 feet long. On the north side of my cattle shed, I have over 500 feet of ground bale stacked too high. The previous person on the place before Omar did, thank me very much for catching snow in my corrals. You're welcome. I'm doing the same thing for him. In essence, unfortunately, he doesn't see that part. And again, it runs 500 feet long on the north side of the facility, protecting him very well from north, very, very well.
It's over 500.
No, I didn't mark it, it's way past that. I say to council, probably the best thing is to come and see it for yourself. You be the judge. This word of mouth is a he say, she say things, and a picture with 1,000 words. Come and see it for yourself.
I do have photos if you need that submitted of what the snow buildup is at this time at that fence and tree line. And you can still see the top barbed wire and page wire fence that the dogs are normally out in. And our dog, if it comes over to the barn, doesn't go
We have
normally near.
one dog. By the way, I have 100 cows.
Go ahead.
Are you all right with the 6-foot fence, or do you want, you would like to see anything?
I don't think it's necessary to have any fence
Other than what's existing?
other than what's existing. Any wooden fence, whether it's 4 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, is detrimental to our organization and our livelihood. And you're putting it, our calves at risk to get sick and us not making income.
Where Chris is coming with that, the landscape from Omar's place, backyard slopes towards my corrals. In years of farming, Mother Nature runs towards the place. So you put a 10-foot fence there, as you'll know, you'll have 10-foot drift set. And where does that go? My way, not his way. So yeah, the wind might benefit you, Omar, but again, being in the farm, the country like all my life, it's called being neighbors and helping out, working together. When you start putting up fence on fence, so it's supposed to be barn line fence, and again, not discussing it with the sideline landowner saying, we're putting a fence up here. Oh, okay. Nothing was brought forward, nothing was said to us, no, nothing but green grass.
Until our cows got out.
Yeah,
And
well,
then we wondered why we didn't have electricity on our fence.
page where it's up against the barbed wire electric fence. So there's lots of little petty issues that go on. You don't know what it's like having neighbors. I've never had this in my life before.
No, I get along with it.
Well,
We do too normally.
I do, and I kind of chuckle because the previous neighbor, there was my mother-in-law. We sometimes say in-laws, outlaws. She's a pretty good woman. I have no complaints. We got along very well. There was no problem with privacy fencing. We shared the hydrant, read the hydrant together. I purchased snow for it. It was a great deal. So long story short, I think it's kind of petty. No, I don't want a fence there because we do get southerly winds, which we had last week, really windy southerly winds. And guess what? All comes my way. I'll do my share on my side, not a problem. But I don't see it benefit either party. And what it does do, again, it traps a lot of snow for me. But again, the fence on Omar's, there's not 6 feet of snow there. I guarantee you that. There's one spot that might be a short strip of 5 feet of snow at the very most. But out of that 500 feet, you're going to be lucky if there's 10 feet of that. And the rest of it is 18 inches, foot. Come and see it for yourself. You're more than welcome to drive on my property.
Just to let everybody know, the height of the fence is 4 times the width of what the snow or what the cause would be onto our property.
It's the carryover effect.
10-foot fence would give you a 40-foot snow.
Yeah. So here.
40-foot snow buildup.
Which would be then right into our corrals where we have our livestock with no access to our tractor or to the front of our corrals.
It's a big thing in my mind because I calve into March. And the big thing in my mind is spring moisture. That is, the snow doesn't bother me. The 40 doesn't bother me. It's these April rains you get, this April rain, it's cold, big time cold. And that all congregates to my corral because it's been there for 2nd, 3rd generation farm. Just happens to be the ground goes down. So yeah, the fence is, it's not necessary. I'm breaking his window in his place with my crowns, my round bales. That's what he brought the issue up. Oh, the round bales are gone. Did a good job, didn't they? You sure noticed my round bales are gone, don't you? Yeah, you do.
Well, and they'll be back in the fall when we bale some more and
Maybe.
Anybody else got any questions for them? Okay,
Mr. Chairperson, no question, but Council Brown made asked a question, any type of fence, you can't stop them according to this bylaw. As long as you stay within the guidelines of the development.
Yeah, you have to use the five foot, so you can't
Yeah.
go higher than 6 feet.
That's right.
Right
So
now,
if they
that's what
would
this
want-
variance is about, is if they want to go higher, you have to have consent of council for that.
You know, so just. let it be brought. Like, if
Can't
they
do-
want to go build a 6-foot fence tomorrow, they can't, we can't stop them. If-
Well, it can't, just like that first part said, it can't be a wall like fence. though.
Oh,
That's not permitted, like on the first
Yeah.
page of the report.
Yeah. That's right.
That's what I was trying to make note of, is it can't be a wall like fence. So, which would be detrimental to them, what they're saying.
But a Home Depot style pressure treated fence, you couldn't stop anybody from doing that on your property, as long as you stay within the development plan. Yes,
Yeah, but it can't be a wall
Yeah.
like fence, yes.
okay, no, that's fine.
I have the drawing of the.
Yeah, we don't have a drawing what the fence is gonna be. That's maybe something Omer should respond to, is what kind of fence is he putting up? I don't know.
I'm just gonna talk first, actually. We don't have 100% plan of the fence. Respectfully, have no idea what's so complicated. I'm glad we have a professional here. Shows his credentials, I'm telling you some of the first snow belts I'd like to do. Excuse me, I'm talking, thank you. And I just want to, for the record, say, I heard some snickering from the respectful chairman, to get along with the neighbors. Nobody said we're not getting along. It's not for that. It's got nothing to do with the snow. It's actually about the wind. I'm moved from Northwest Territories a couple of years ago in Manitoba and thinking, I'm gonna have some chickens and maybe a goat. And a friend of mine said, well, your fence is, your 4-foot fence is gonna keep things in, so we're gonna build a 6-foot fence. However, I said to my spouse, maybe we could build higher. Don't know what we're gonna do there yet, right? Just, so we don't have a solid plan, Barb, thanks for asking that. And the focus is not on the snow. The focus is just on wind, on weather, on, it's windy out there, learning, you're right, welcome to Manitoba, didn't know that and stuff. No negative reason to build the fence. And the reason we're only going with 5 feet is because on the east side of the property is a pasture there that we're considering getting some livestock, and it's just gonna have the regular bark fence, just or wire fence for other animals. So we don't need to go beyond that. The house, that's not where the home is. Did you get anything to add about the plan? But it's
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
there's a plan for the fence. We don't have a full plan, I'm not trying to build a wall or anything. Just something to keep in, maybe possible livestock in the future. I don't know about cattle industry, and respectfully, I'm sure everything they said is true, but it's not for any reason except for a fence.
Mr. Shaman has page wire fence going past the 500-foot mark. It is not completed yet. It comes off 349. It's north, about 200 feet. Stops there because I'm finished the project. It comes from the tree line and heads another 200 approximately feet, 250 heading west. So the corner is not done on a 4-foot page wire fence. So there's no barbed wire fence there because the fence previous to that was my electric fence, was the wires up against. Not asking, just doing. And that fence is more than 5 feet too. That fence is 6 feet tall. Chain link fence. That came from Fraser Auction. All right, there's lots of small issues here. We try to be neighbors as well. We can go on with this for quite a conversation. Like I said, we can be very petty too as well. When Omar and Tammy Shaden first moved there, I thought we were being quite neighborly. I helped Omar put stuff into his house like dirt rock, he's remodeled the kitchen side. I have a burn hole in the back of my yard. I told Omar, you're more than welcome to put your burnables in my burn hole. But it does not burn, goes to recycle. Plain and simple. I pulled trees out of front of his yard.
Excuse me, why are we discussing things that?
Because I'm showing you that we're trying to be neighbors.
I mean, I didn't know we were going to have a debate. I think that's what the honorable secretary did.
I'm just showing you
We're
I'm trying to
talking
be
about a
neighborly.
fence. I have a list too. Do we want to do that? I don't think so. Here to just build a fence, just a good old Saskatchewan girl from Yellowknife wanted to build a fence. Is that, did I do something wrong? I really like this council who's representing Cornwallis and Manitoba So we're not arguing about things. We're talking about a fence right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, I think that respectfully, that's not necessary.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll actually step back and yes, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to the application?
Seeing none. Move, seconded. Okay. Anybody to speak to that motion? I'll call for the question, all in favor. So
Motion
two for your decision.
for decision, yes.
Motion. Whereas Omar and Tamara Shaven have applied to vary the application of the municipality's zoning bylaw number 1664/3/2016 as amended with respect to 112/083 PR 349 southeast quarter 17/9/19 as follows. To vary the maximum fence height from 6 feet, 1.83 meters to 10 feet, 3.05 meters in the rear yard in the agricultural general zone. And whereas the council held a public hearing to the representation in favor and in opposition to the application. And whereas the council is not satisfied with varying application of specific provisions of the zoning bylaw with regard to the affected property in the manner specified in the order. So be in that,
So you would not need to read the next section, Bob,
Yeah.
and then just go
No,
on to the
there-
now therefore.
now therefore be it resolved that in consideration of the foregoing and of any representation made at the hearing and of the application itself, the council hereby rejects the application as submitted and authorize that variation.
Just
I don't
that's
need to
it.
do that. I second the motion.
Just wait. Good.
Yeah.
Kurt seconded. Anybody wish to speak to that motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason we only have a public hearing for things like that, and I've just heard too many negative things that will and could be detrimental to the neighboring properties. I'm going to support the motion. I think there's reasons there. We've got these provisions in place.
Anybody else wish to speak to that motion? All good. I'll call for the question, all in favor.
Next item on the agenda is proposal to subdivide. Application number 4116-22-8372, part northwest of 241018 WPM. Applicant is Schutz.
I would like to say one word before I leave, a couple words, if you don't mind. We bought the property from Jean Brown, which is his mother-in-law, and that's her son, her daughter there. And we never knew this is gonna be any kind of issues to put a fence in there or anything like that, because we did not allow Brian anymore to cross from the old way to his property in the back. So he had to open his own road after a year and a half of using our road. So that's why, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
We need a
We need
mover
a
and a
mover.
seconder.
For for the proposal to subdivide, please.
Camera?
No, proposal to subdivide, no new road.
Need a mover and a seconder.
I'll make.
Okay.
Would you like me to read that?
No, I'll read it out.
Okay, yeah.
Be it resolved that postal subdivide application number 411622, 8372 Boris Shoots and Lily Shoots, being lot 12, plan 65953, part northwest 241018, being a postal subdivide, be hereby approved, subject to the following conditions that a variation order be increasing the minimum side width of lot 1 from 200 to 50 feet within the RR zone. That a zoning bylaw amendment be obtained, changing the zone for both lots from RR5 to RR2 and meeting any conditions, requirements for the subdivision as necessary.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
I think, yeah, just the nature where it's located is quite a number of these subdivisions in that area. I think it fits right in there. I think we're going outside of the norm there.
There was only one thing that, when I looked at the drawings, that I was had a bit of a concern is, I don't know how they're gonna access that new part. Is there anything in the,
Yeah, because one of the parts comes from the top, so they can come on that main road. They should be able to get to all of them.
they're not going to come off of the RM road though? They're gonna use the existing approach?
Yeah. these people.
That was the only thing I kind of was wondering about.
I anticipated coming down to the RM road, even though the road's not on.
I think if I'm looking at the actual application there, it's the same as on the other side of the road where it's a long driveway.
Yeah.
It's a long driveway,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just need to see.
That's the way I.
And that's where the variation comes from for the front, because the frontage isn't two
Yeah,
hundred.
because they're kind of an L shape.
Yeah.
Come up like this, so that's the access right there, and it should all come off of 37.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one.
Was there
That's the way
anything,
I enjoy it.
was there any consideration what they're putting on there?
One
Not
of
at this
lot's
time.
gonna be a house, and the other one is gonna be sold, so out of the two, he's gonna develop 2 lots, and 2 of them will be sold.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? I will call for the question. All in favor?
That's the access right there.
Under the item 4.3 under delegations, we have 2 delegations this evening. First delegation is Lynn Forrest.
I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here this evening.
Lynn, excuse me, could I get you to sit down?
Oh, sure.
I want you to be comfortable and you know you're on the clock, 10 minutes. Okay?
Yes, I understand that,
All
even
right.
though I'm here representing a lot of people. Anyways, what I'll start off with
Just hang on, one more question.
Mhm.
Is this about gravel?
about gravel.
Yeah.
Not specifically. Somewhat. So yes, probably there's a
Well,
conflict of
I
interest.
just want a
Yeah.
clarification so that we're not,
Well, to be safe, I would say yes.
okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr. Chairperson, I'm just gonna make a comment. Till the rate there is on, you're on the clock. I would appreciate in the future, you had a gasoline salesman and a waste management salesman to come before us, and they both exceeded the 10 minutes. So if you're gonna put rules in place, let's put it for everybody. We did the same thing for Michelle Hay last year. So that's, rules are rules, but I think we need to advise everybody that sits in that chair that 10 minutes is the allotted time.
I'm
You didn't
I'm
mention it.
presuming that when Lynn registered, Donna let her know.
That's fine.
anyways, does my time start now?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, when we first had our residents meeting in relation to the appeals hearing that's upcoming this next week, I believe you, Mr. Chairperson, promised the people that were here that you would involve me in the meeting with the lawyer. And that didn't happen, and people would like to know why.
The response back from the lawyer is what it ended up being. Am I correct?
That's correct.
But no one let me know that, or let them know that. Anyways.
I
just wanted-
apologize. for that.
Okay. Another thing, everyone would like to know, the original notice for appeals was date stamped in the office December 21st. Now, where did the ball get dropped? Like, I mean, the lawyer just actually got retained here approximately 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago now. So where was the disconnect? Whose responsibility was it to pick up a phone and call and make sure council was aware and actually retain a lawyer for this appeals hearing? Because you've lost essentially 2 months of time for the lawyer to prepare his case. And I'm assuming, as I haven't heard anything different, that the adjournment wasn't successful. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. They are going to make their mind up on the 23rd.
About the adjournment?
Yes. Correct?
That's.
I don't want to
that's
mix
what
up
we-
words here, so I want everybody to understand that the way our lawyer explained it was that they haven't committed to an adjournment until the 23rd. So that possibly could still happen.
Okay, but then
Alright.
it means then that because of the way the municipal board works, people have already taken off the 23rd, like taken off time off work to come to the hearing on the 23rd. We already submitted things and paid courier fees and everything. And then it could get delayed again, and then we have to take time off again. Is that what the possibility is?
At that point, I would say yes.
It's up to the board.
The board is running the show. That's the problem here. And that was the statement I made in one was two different conditional uses. When we reject a condition on an aggregate or a big livestock operation, those applicants have got the right by the government's mandate to be able to appeal.
Oh, yes. I totally
Once they
understand
appeal
that.
it, we lose control. So
Well-
now we're at their beck and call. They're calling the shots. So
I'm going to say I agree to disagree here, because
well, then we'd both be wrong.
it wouldn't be the first time. If you look back to October of 2020, when Primers came to the same council and asked about getting a conditional use on that gravel pit, and there was many of us that opposed that, even on very short notice. And
About 24, if
yeah.
I remember rightly, 24, 25.
Anyways, part of the issue that comes up all the time with these gravel pits too is that the distance of notice is 100 meters. So lots of times you're only notifying the other gravel pits. Okay, so unless the word gets out, the rest of us don't know. Now, there was all kinds of issues and concerns that were brought forward to council then. And time and again, I've heard council as a whole say that the gravel pits are actually not paying their way. Now, unless that is untruthful or inaccurate, then I don't understand where this council is continuing to give out conditional uses for gravel pits and still not putting more conditions on them. You turned around and in December of 2020, there was a conditional use on Colette Poirier, and that passed unanimously, and there was no special conditions put on there for road transportation costs, for dust control, hours of operation. And yet now that the appeals hearing has happened and the lawyer and the planners are involved, it is my understanding that there's probably going to be changes coming. But you've had, what, 3.5 years already? So what has been happening before this, and why are the rest of us still paying to subsidize the gravel pits? Now, I did some quick look, well, not only that, there was the other one in January of 2021, same thing. No extra conditions put on there as far as hours of operations, weed control, any road transportation costs, dust control. I've been through the financials, I've been going through them and then looking at things like dust control costs. And I look at the amount of money that's being spent on dust control, where is that going? Because I'm paying for dust control. So who is getting all this dust control? And if a lot of it is gravel pits, and then when I figure out how much they're paying for property taxes, and I had specifically asked about that as well, And I got the information from Donna. She was very helpful and supplied it to me. And I had figured out on one of the quarter sections, it's not too far from me. And the way I understand it, on a quarter section, and I allowed for them to be half of it still as just sitting idle and have to be used as aggregate and going off their land assessment and the 26% ratio for land assessment that's classed as ag and the 65 on the aggregate part. And their property tax on a quarter section comes to a whopping $376.71. $376.71. Does that sound fairly accurate, Donna?
It could be,
Yeah,
could be.
okay. So anyways, and then you look at all the residents that are around there, and this particular pit here now, if it goes ahead, this one on the appeals here, you're looking at affecting on the very low end, at least 200 residences. So I did in the concentric circles and guesstimating that the average amount of property tax per place, because I'm not going to scroll through everyone. So just as an estimate, I said if the average place out there was $2,500 a year for property taxes, and I think that's pretty reasonable. I think we can all agree on that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, at 200 residences, $2,500 a year is $500,000 in property tax. Now, if this thing goes ahead, and not only that, because of the ones that have already there, we've already lost property value. And that's part of the reason Walkowski's are in the position they're in and they cannot sell. It's not that their property isn't worth that much with the buildings and everything, but they cannot sell because of the frickin' gravel pits. That is the bottom line. So they're stuck in a really bad spot. If you look, and I averaged it out at a 20% loss across the board for 200 residences, you're looking at a loss of $100,000 right off the top in property tax. Now you look at the amount of money that came in for mining and transportation fees this year for the gravel pits, and it was $199,000 and change. The dust control this year was, I think, close to $80,000, I believe, this year. Give me a minute and I will tell you. In 2021, your dust control that was paid out was $78,050.57. Now, people like me actually paid for dust control. So you take that off there, that's a little over $9,000. So somewhere along the line, there was still close to $70,000 of dust control paid for. And I'd really like to know where the hell it's going. Like these guys aren't even at $370. I'm paying $100 for 300 feet of dust control. Those guys, if they even paid for half a mile, it would be $880. So they're not even covering that. The licensing fee, still $10 in all the years I look back, 2016 forward, it's still $10. That doesn't even pay you guys your time to write out the bloody license for them. Well, it's true. Talk about adding insult to injury. So when does it change? Now you've already let it slide for this year again. Now, at some point, these guys have got to start paying. Now, I couldn't find any exact figures on road maintenance costs per mile for an actual gravel road, like an average passenger vehicle style gravel road. But I'm guessing that we can all agree, once again, that any of those haul roads is going to cost at least 4 times as much money to maintain as what just a passenger road does. And I looked at your haul routes and I know for sure there's at least 28 miles of haul route and probably more like 30, 32, because how long is the Spring Valley Road one? Anyone know? I couldn't find that. 3 miles? 2 miles?
No.
How long
Right-
is it?
Right from number 10 on.
All the way
14?
to Shane's.
Okay,
I'm gonna say 13, but.
13, well, then that changes things a little bit because all of a sudden 13 and 28, so you're looking at your haul roads are probably 18 to 20% of all your roads in the RM.
And eating probably about half our budget,
Well, they're eating a pile of money.
time and graders and all that.
So yeah, we're peeved. We want to know what's going to happen. And all of us are going to be in here looking for a reduction in our taxes. And so we should. Like they either better start paying their way or run them out of town, give them a choice. They should just be happy that they've been getting off so lightly for so many years. And 40 yards of like sand, give me a break.
It's a Band-Aid. It's
Like-
not even a really good Band-Aid.
No, it's not. Now, I also had heard back from Mines and Minerals. They did get back to me. As far as the noxious weed control, you guys will be getting a copy of that, I'm pretty sure, because I've been in contact with the MLAs and MPs, and Mines and Minerals branches and that kind of thing. Now with that, oh, just to finish off for dust control. If you actually look at a mile of dust control, would be $1,600. Right, half a mile is $880, so a mile is a little over $1,600. I mean, even if they were paying, that would make a difference. But if you've got 40 miles of haul road and you're only selling 33 licenses, and why does that vary? Sometimes it's like 26 licenses, sometimes it's 33. Okay, so they're not even like by rights, if you even got them all to pay for at least a mile of dust control, you'd have a whole lot of money right there. Right? Now, as far as the weeds thing, like I said, you'll be getting a copy of that letter from them, I'm sure. At any time, your bylaw enforcement officer could have been going in there and enforcing the Noxious Weeds Act, and they can actually shut them down until they're in compliance. So that could have been done at any time too. So I just wonder why all these things are continuing to go on.
These are good questions. The thing is that now that there's so many big projects right now on the go, that it's showing up more and more, the wear and tear on our roads, the size of the berms. We're at a point in the crossroads where we need to listen to you people, because it's affecting you more and more than what it was before, because of the number of the trucks and the number of the size of the projects. Okay, so now is the time where our lawyer is going to sit down with us, and I want you people to be able to weigh in on that. I said this at the last information meeting we had about putting some ideas together for conditions so that we cover what you people are putting up with from your perspective. Us sitting here as a council, not all the time, we're human, okay? Not all the time we think what's happening in your area to directly affect you the way it is.
I understand that.
Okay,
I'm just saying that I've heard from this council many a time that the gravel pits are not paying their way, and yet nothing has been done.
trust me, we are going to work with our lawyer and get that stuff into place as soon as we get this hearing done.
Like the next day.
It could be the same day.
Now, I think like you've had quite a few
Well,
days now.
No, I know you're frustrated. You don't think we're frustrated on this end when we hear this all the time? You know what I mean? Like, these big projects have really pushed this RM to a limit on the learning curve on what to do with the roads, because the roads 20 years ago were built to haul that kind of material in those big trucks.
Oh,
Can you repeat that,
absolutely, we
Mr.
can agree
Chairperson?
on that.
Mr. Chairperson, can you just repeat that, what you just said?
What's that?
The roads in that area weren't built for that?
Not as far as I know, they weren't.
Now,
You're
I
gonna
did,
spend $200,000 of gas tax money.
I did inquire,
Chairperson,
It's good.
it's a suggestion. Even I made a suggestion and I stand to that. You can.
We're on her 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's not argue. Let her continue.
I had been doing some research on road transportation, and I was looking back at the information, the pilot project that Cornwallis did with Cipher Environmental. And I'm assuming, because the prices that I saw quoted were 2019 and it was $75,000 for a mile of road at that time. So I'm guessing that now we can probably say it's gonna be $100,000, at least $85,000 to $100,000. And you only have what, 5 miles done altogether? That's right, isn't it?
On Hall Road?
Yeah, on that
We have
Curry's.
3.
3, okay, excuse me,
Yeah.
3, that's even worse. So you're talking now all of a sudden that you've actually got 28 and 14, so you're looking at 42 miles of haul road and you've got 3 done. Okay, so with my math, that means you got 39 left to go. At $85,000 to $100,000 a mile.
We've got other haul roads that doesn't have cipher on it. It's mixed with calcium
Mhm.
and it's, I'm gonna say, I'm not sure how much exactly it is cheaper, but it works almost as good depending on how much traffic's on it.
Mhm.
Because if you need the traffic on it to make it bind and hold together with the dust control, whether it's cipher or whether it's calcium.
And like, from my understanding, they're thinking maybe the roads that are redone with that might last up to 10 years. They're saying 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Realistically.
We're on year 7 with that first mile now, and it's at the point where it's.
I know, I went down it the other day. It looks like it's coming apart.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing, like, I mean, at some point, they either have to pay their way because the rest of us shouldn't be putting up with all the crap and still subsidizing them.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
I could go on and have more, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
And like I had said
Do
before,
you want to bring any of that forward for Donna to, so that we can review it at committees? Like, have you got stuff you want to see put in there for
conditions,
future?
oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, could I make a suggestion to bring that forward
Oh,
for Donna?
absolutely. Like I
And-
said, I
and
would
then-
like to be on a development committee. I really think this RM is looking forward as far as development committees and things that are going on. You need some residents that are actually on those committees, on a steering committee.
That's something to look into too then.
Mr. Chairperson, there was something on the agenda tonight affecting that, and yet you didn't basically want to go there.
Mr. Chairperson, it's not that we didn't want to go there. It goes to the committee, then we look into things, and then comes back. That's the proper procedure.
Motion then to accept the presentation by Lynn.
Mover and second.
I move that the presentation be accepted as presented, and I will, I have the date on from the hearing, and as soon as we know what comes out, either extended or not, whatever, I will start looking into whatever we can do with bylaws, with our laws, whatever, to try to get our pockets in the pockets. Has to be within the legal system, and such. We cannot just willy-nilly put a bylaw down, you will pay, or we keep no, doesn't work that we unfortunately, even though we want to. But I will make sure that it starts as early as possible.
I will say though, as far as the Noxious Weeds Act goes, that has a lot of control, and you can literally shut them down if they aren't compliant.
Can I ask a question? When are the roads gonna be closed to these trucks? Have you been down that road lately? Like I was down Whiten Road today.
Whiten and Magazine?
Yes.
Okay,
Whiten is like really soggy. The corners are falling apart. Like, is it safe for these trucks?
what's our restrictions? When did this come out?
They will not be on before the 18th is the last, that word that I.
The 18th of
March.
March.
I'm just saying, they're in pretty bad shape right now in a couple of areas. The corner of Whiten and Magazine is really bad. The corner down at the last road. Maybe that's Magazine.
Magazine is the one that goes
the
to
other one,
340.
the mile up further is the real bad corner.
Whiten, where the
Whiten and
the transfer station?
it's that first mile.
Oh, Higgins.
Is it Higgins?
Higgins is what comes out.
Higgins or Kissick?
Kissick, isn't it?
There's
That was-
Kissick
Magazine,
is the first one, then
Higgins,
Higgins, and
the
then
first
Kissick.
like the corners are really getting bad. That first corner is really bad. Actually, we have a 3/4 ton and we were kind of like slipping, sliding and kind of going down.
Donna's
So,
marking,
like,
Donna's
that's-
marking it down. We'll get Pete to look at it tomorrow and,
Like maybe you might consider shutting that down sooner,
yeah,
or at least until maybe the rain didn't help matters. I don't know, but something's not right there. And
okay.
we're gonna have some accidents, I'm sure, but.
We'll get Pete to look into that tomorrow.
And that one magazine going around the corner, you can see the whole road looks like it shifted and the corner's like, it's going like this.
Well, you know, those guys don't like to slow down, right? It's,
Well, I'm just saying that, you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna look at some problems.
Okay.
And I don't know whether they can sue the municipality because the roads are out. You know, like, we need to look at those.
we've got it marked down, right?
I'm looking for a seconder.
Okay. Need a seconder.
I'll second.
Anybody wish to speak to that resolution? No. I will call for the question, all in favor. Next one.
Next item then on the agenda is delegation by Terry Ross.
You guys want to take a bio break?
Pardon?
You guys want to take a bio break?
You got 10 minutes.
Well, that's a goal.
We could. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can get up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're faster than I am.
The thing is, we have let it run too much in the ground for that. Like from here, ground there, get it started, whatever, to please everybody. Before we take two or three, but at least, you know, when you see that we're doing whatever, the worst part is the people getting everything through, getting the bylaws in place, whatever, 3 hearings, or the other part, do whatever it's easier to do, and then forward, whatever, and then try. Some of the guys, most of the guys will go back, well, we approved it, I don't know, 5 years, 8 years, 10 ago, but we should be grandfathered, but we can't do that. Because of the whole status quo, it should be,
No,
you know,
nobody should be grandfathered.
and that's the point, you know, we have to make things change.
I mean, when they were in there, let's face it, when I moved out, there was maybe 2, 3 kids. Now, right down Magazine Road, there, I think I counted 11,
Yeah. Let's
just
go.
down the main route.
Yeah, going back to country, whatever, the province is obligated, they have their not squeeze off, whatever, bite off. But they also, they don't do anything on their own. Ditches, whatever.
I
and
thought we're supposed to have a policy person. An officer.
Like, there's supposed to be a week.
There's gonna be, has to be, because he was the old one, the new one, whenever we do. We are done with the hired person, replacement.
But you know, Kurt, when I'm having leafy spurge growing out in the middle of that road that you built, that's pretty sad.
I know.
And I'm spraying the
I'm not
road
dis-
with my
I'm
own
not-
money.
I'm not disputing that.
That is, there's one thing I'd like to throw out there, as far as this whole weed spraying thing goes. Is there any way that the RM can make a deal with someone so that we can buy through the RM and get a discount on our spray?
Find out first what you're paying.
Well, I know what I paid, and last year it went up 30%, but I'm just saying, is there any way that,
That'd be interesting to compare the two prices.
because really,
The only problem I could see off the top of my head then would be is whether we would buy it and have to store it. You know
oh
what I
no,
mean?
I think I would.
Or you would go and buy it through the RM and pick it up and take it home. That would be the only thing that I would be kind of wondering about, but if the outlet would let that happen, it would be interesting, like Sam says, to see what the price would be
Yeah.
in comparison, but
Because like I said, the costs are going up and up and up, right? And it has to be done. Like, I mean, not doing it, that is not an option, because the drier it gets, the worse the problem is, because the weeds do very well when it's dry.
I
So they have to be managed properly.
I forget what Pete said, the kochia plant, it looks like the tumbleweeds. I forget how many seeds one plant
40,000.
Spurge is the same way.
generates.
40,000.
Yeah, it's just
It was
atrocious.
my property that got bombarded. with alum.
Yes,
Your
yes.
property, how about mine?
They all,
I
let's
took
just say they all
32
did.
Construction bag fulls, one day off of my fence line. And
Well,
3
he was-
truckloads.
He was a little bit ticked off when we got him to do the pause. I forget how many loads he said.
Okay.
We're good? Okay, let's get back at it. Terry, you're up. Oh, well, you're talking about gravel, so.
Fair enough.
And beaver.
Yeah. Honorable Reeve and councilors, thank you for receiving my delegation. My name is Terry Ross. I live at Southwest 321019 West over at Eagle Ridge. Yes, beavers, first let me congratulate you on a long and difficult campaign fighting nuisance beavers in our RM. From the look of the last year's expenses compared to the previous years, it looks like we finally made some headway and some progress, and the number of beavers is reduced. So well done to you guys. So on the topic of beavers, I have a few questions to ask, and I don't expect answers now. I have some questions that I'll give you guys in printed format, and you can take some time and respond to them later. So my first question, is there an actual written policy on dealing with nuisance beavers? And the reason why I ask this is I have asked for a policy to be uploaded to the website, and to date, no policy has been made available. So the optics is that the RM's beaver program has been operating without any parameters, guidelines, or requirements since prior to 2009. As a point of administration, at what point do programs that the RM offers, what point do they stop becoming ad hoc programming and become a formal service? I did note that at the regular meeting that was held in February, a draft policy was submitted by the CAO for council's consideration. And on the website, is this the policy that existed before? Because on the website, there is an approved amended date on the cover letter attached to that policy that has a date of February 15th, 2011. So if this is the draft policy, or is it the one that, is this the policy that existed before, or is it the one that is just being submitted now? Without a policy, how has the program been administered? I have obtained correspondence from an RM, from the RM to a ratepayer from a delegation that occurred last May, where it was said by the RM that a beaver is determined to be nuisance when either a local farmer calls or a council member or municipal staff notices a problem with drainage. A contractor must fill out and sign a formal declaration depending on the location. Either a council member or municipal staff will verify the number. The call rate is $40 per beaver, and the municipality was also in the past number of years participating in the farmland beaver program. So what controls are in place to validate the cull of these beavers? I don't, in the correspondence that I received from the invoices, I didn't see any type of formal sign off from a council member or a municipal staff member that verified the cull. And also another question, since the RM participates in the farmland beaver program, where and how is the $15 per beaver that the program reimburses reallocated to within our budget? My next question is regarding expenses. I've been seeking detailed information about the RM, about what the RM is spending on removing nuisance beavers. I was asked to submit a request under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Thank you, Donna. I received those. However, I asked for invoices from 2015 to 2021, which is 6 years. The 2015 invoices aren't available. My next question is why the RM is offering a nuisance beaver program at public expense. I've been in contact with the 7 other RMs that surround Cornwallis. The RM of Elton is the only municipality that has a written policy on nuisance beavers. RM Oakland Wawanesa relies solely on the farmland nuisance beaver program, but in no case did any other RM offer beaver removal at public expense. So why am I paying to remove nuisance beavers on private land? My next comments are about gravel. I've been keeping a close eye on the monthly expenses for the RM in calendar year 2021, especially for the gravel expenses for my ward number 1.
Of note is that of the 12 individual monthly financial statements, a total of $7,085.50 of a total budget of $91,200 was recorded as being expensed in the calendar year. There was a $562.50 in March, $2,000 in November, and $4,523 in December. The year-to-date actual confirmed this up until July. But then in August, it started to balloon, but yet no expenses were being reported. And finally, in December 2021, it showed that we were well over budget. So what has this accounted gravel money been spent on? My next comments are about roads. At the November 16, 2021 meeting, I presented a petition from the residents of Eagle Ridge, as well as the property owners whose property bordered Gray Road and were directly impacted by the proposed new subdivision, where we cited concerns about safety on Gray Road. After the meeting, a transportation committee had a meeting, and in the public works update, it was in the minutes that Marsden, Gray, and Hunter conditions going forward due to the increased traffic was discussed, and council will have some decisions planned for the future. So here we are 6 months later, and can the council tell me what the plan is for the next 3, 5, 7 years for Marsden, Gray, or Hunter Road? You know, there's been no movement in that. I haven't seen it. And finally, my last comments are about library memberships. At a January 6th special meeting, I had asked that council look at cost-saving opportunities to try and keep taxes under control. At the time, we didn't know that a war was brewing between Russia and Ukraine, which would send global fuel prices spinning out of control. At the January 20th meeting, Councillor Hofer made a resolution that the RM offer library services much the same way as we did in 2021, whereas 86 individuals participated in the program. Good for them. In hindsight, I don't think it was a good decision to commit to spending anything without seeing the budget as a whole, as what we are now faced with, you know, the looming 30% increase in fuel expenses for the coming year. So my comment about this is, if I can afford to live in Cornwallis, I can afford a library membership. So my question to council, will the RM consider removing this budget line item for this coming fiscal year and reallocate those funds towards fuel expenses? That's your vote in a nutshell. Yeah, sure. Good.
It's just one sheet there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegation information presented to council by Terry Ross be hereby received, and therefore CEO reply within 7 working days of the questions. They're very simple questions. Yeah. Just don't want to get into a thing like the municipal relations person that advised us last year not to reply to these letters. Ratepayers, we need to, in due diligence, basically reply at 7 working days.
I second it.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? I'll call for the question.
We're there. Item number 5, reports of committees.
Not a report, but a question for the committees. The police board, has that complaint been dealt with and discussed?
The complaint has been dealt with 1 week after we received it. And that's as far as I can.
And a report submitted to.
Report.
Yep.
a letter,
submitted.
a letter being submitted, whatever, and that is as far as I can go.
Okay, well, that's fair.
No, it has been dealt with right away in a speedy manner.
Reception of petitions, I have not received any communication.
I'll make a motion to be resolved that the following communications were received and filed.
Seconder for that? I'll second that. Anybody wants to speak to that? Call for the question. All in.
Next item on the agenda, accounts and finance, approval of accounts.
Mover for that?
Yeah, I will make the motion.
Okay.
Be it resolved that the following payroll and general accounts be approved for payment as follows. Direct payroll of February 18, 22, 24, March 3rd, 10th, including in 10 check 10,477 and 10,495 at the amount of total $152,075. No, $152,075.90. And be it further resolved that the following utility accounts be approved for payment as follows for a total of $566.73. And be further resolved that council indemnity accounts in the sum net total of the amount of $4,849.77 be approved for payment.
We'll need a seconder for that. Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I got some question. CEO, under general accounts, it could be a misprint. The Heritage Co-op 1997 Limited, the check number 10488.
Yeah.
It says Public Works and Police fuel, $8,501.52. Is that correct?
That would be correct. That's your diesel plug, that's all fuel.
But it says Public Works.
Yes.
Is that the truck or the?
No, that would be the
Oh,
graders, the
okay.
truck, the.
I
police
took that as a
vehicles.
Public Works truck.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, sorry, everything.
Now, on page 2, first item on there, police KBD cell.
Yes,
Are we still paying the
we do.
telephone?
Yeah,
And
and that's because they couldn't get their account set up yet, so we still are, but they pay us. We don't,
where does it show? Does it show as recovered?
yes,
Okay,
it's, well, it doesn't. When we pay the bill, we set it up as an accounts receivable, issue them an invoice, and then we get the payment for it. So that portion of the bill doesn't show on our expenses at all.
now, the last item on page 2, the Western Financial
Yes.
Group, is that monthly?
Yes,
So if you go by times 12, we're talking $28,500.
yes,
Might want to do a little bit of homework. It might be best to self-insurance. It'd be interesting if you do a survey amongst employees. What are they actually paying? You might not pay that. You might do self-insurance. You know what I'm saying? It's just something to think about.
Yeah.
But we need to, can you do an analysis maybe? That's a lot. Okay. The other one, I'm gonna bring up at the budget meeting, the cell phones. I'd like to revisit the cell phone bylaw, just, when I see we're paying $122, I think we're paying for data. In all fairness to the taxpayers, it should be the calls and texts. I don't think we need data to cell phone. I can bring that up at the budget meetings. Opportunity to save money.
Anybody else wish to speak to that motion? I'll call for the question. All in favor?
next item then is unauthorized expenditure, 2022 spring convention.
Mr. Chairperson, I would like to make a motion. Be it resolved that we hereby authorize Reeve Curtis, Councillor Hofer, Councillor Wasserberg, Councillor Eggert, and Councillor Brown, attend the 2022 Spring Convention, April 20 and 21st, 2022 in Brandon. And the reason I'm bringing it up and supporting, there's no hotels involved, no large travel to Winnipeg, it is local. And at least I personally get a lot of input, whatever, from fellow councillors, our answer, so on. That's why I support it.
Need a seconder for that?
So get it, to get it on the table to discuss, I'm almost a firm believer that second any motion, just for discussion, whether I support it or not.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion? Kurt, you're good?
No, I just, get my part, yeah, that's all, be local, no hotels, no travel to Winnipeg and so on. And if
Sure. Yep.
people want to go both days, whatever, it's up to it, it's up to the individual.
Okay, so
Yeah, Mr. Chairperson, also, I'm a bit struggling with supporting the motion, but there's no registration fee for this, is there?
Yes, there
Yeah,
is.
and how much is
I
that?
believe it was 175.
I really struggle. I second it. When we're looking what's happening outside the doors here for money, I don't see the value of sending 5 council members. I would like to amend it if council would like to see it. I think sending 2 and then come back with a detailed report. What did you learn? If we're just going to mosey around and shoot the breeze, I don't think that's any value to the ratepayers. We've got a lot of work in front of us, folks. What I'd like to see is take those 2 days, lock us in this building and start doing the budget, development plans, graveling, policies and all that. I think that would be money well spent. So now that I see that, I just don't think I can support it. I believe if council doesn't want to meet for 2 days here to discuss some major issues in this municipality, I can't support it. Right.
Mr. Chairperson, I take offense by the mentioning of moseying around and so on, whatever. It's not what's happening. The province puts on good presentations regarding bylaws, regarding insurance, regarding even weed control. And there's a lot of other issues, whatever I provided. And you can alternate whatever and change or provide whatever you want to do, pick up from one. And not all the councils go to the same presentation. So you get sort of the layout of everything else.
anybody else want to comment?
Can I make a comment?
Sorry.
I'll always make a comment that probably I wouldn't be going to this, but we have the option that we can be in the time of the year, the April 2021. So I think it'll be get busy. So
Also, Mr. Chairman, on top of everything else, any day, next week, the week after, whatever, you call a meeting, I'll be there. On top of convention.
You're talking budget meetings.
Yes.
Anybody else? Other than the audience, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
no.
Okay, I will call for the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Next item on the agenda then is the MMAA 2022 Annual Convention.
Mover.
Mr. Chairperson, I'll make the motion. Be resolved that the CEO is hereby authorized to attend the MMAA 2022 annual convention to be held in Brandon, Manitoba from April 24 to 27, 2022, and be it further resolved that we hereby authorize the administrative assistant to banquet tickets to attend the formal graduation, which is held on Tuesday, April 26, 2022.
Need a seconder for that? Demo? Anybody wish to speak to that?
Well, I think besides Donna, CEO, the presentation will be to Beverly's certificate, whatever that she got last year, and the final, whatever step for her to be what she is.
It's to acknowledge her accomplishment. Anybody else wish to speak to that motion? On the table? I will call for the question, all in favor.
Next item then is, yes,
There's a gallery for this.
for the MMA,
Yeah.
for the AMM.
There's no
There's,
gallery. with the big box, right?
I haven't, award the tender for the office cleaning.
Need a mover?
Emily?
Or-
Who would you award it to, Emily? Okay, sorry.
There's one, it's like, so 3 of them, or
Yeah.
3 months in a row, 4 months in a row. That's the one.
Pro
Yeah,
janitorial.
you know, in
Pro
the-
janitorial is our current cleaner.
they're doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Keep it in there.
I'll second the motion.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
Mr. Chairperson, could Donna please read the motion?
Yes, I
Yes.
sure can, yeah. Whereas the municipality has issued a cleaning service administration building tender, and whereas the closing date of the tender was February 1st, 2022, for a 4-year term, June 1st, 2022 to May 31st, 2026. And whereas the following tenders were received, Apex Facility Services was $834 per month plus GST, with carpet cleaning being an extra $400 and window cleaning being an extra $400. Taylor Janitorial was $949.97 per month, and Pro Janitorial was year 1, $510.37 per month, year 2, $520.57 per month, year 3, $530.98 per month, and year 4, $541.60 per month. Now therefore be it resolved, we do hereby award the cleaning services administrative building tender to Pro Janitorial for the stated monthly rate as follows. And it'll be year 1, $510.37, year 2, $520.57, year 3, $530.98, and year 4, $541.60.
Seconder for that?
That's it.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
Yeah, just for the
Go ahead,
audience, that's a significant
Difference.
difference, and what's really good about it, is when you have 3 companies submitting the tender, it's always good to, and we didn't get that when we did the audit. I got some comments a little later on, but it's good
May
to
I
see.
just ask, how many days a week do they clean for that? Like, how many times do they come in?
They come twice a week.
That's a good price.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? I will call for the question, all in favor. Sorry, I gotta keep mentioning the audience. I'm bad.
Okay, next item then is a reserve transfer, general reserve to general operating.
We'll need a mover for that.
I'll make that motion. Be it resolved that you hereby authorize a transfer in the amount of $115,448.54 from the general reserve to the general operating as per the 2021 budget.
Second that.
Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yes, I will not support that, any of the following transfers, which is not saying it's wrong or right. I'd like to speak to an auditor, and that's one of the reasons I think people in the province understands we're not accountants. We just need to better understand a lot of the moving parts when it comes to transfers from one account to the other. It's just, for me, it's hard when I look at the financial sheet to understand it. But would just like to get it from a professional person that understands his account a lot better than I do. So I'm a bit hesitant to vote in favor of any of this money being moved around.
Anybody else wish to speak to that?
Professional. All these.
Mr. Chairperson,
Excuse me. Go ahead, Kurt.
this is my second term on council, second term with the CAO. And never, ever from any of the auditors heard that Donna was not doing an excellent job, that they pointed out where something was missed, where money was not put in the proper allocation, and different things that we are brought forward. Our auditor has a contract for 5 years, a legal contract, and unless any counselors bring forward something in writing, but he's not agrees with, or that he can point out, that's where you're wrong, we should not be dealing with it. Our CEO does an excellent job, in my opinion, as far as I know, but I'm only one voice.
Chairperson,
Go ahead.
I'm saying I'm not supporting the transfer money. I'm not saying money went missing. What I'm saying, I don't fully understand when I look at the year-end finances, and I'll bring it up a little bit later, just questions I've got. I'm not accusing anybody of taking stuff. What I'm saying, as a counselor, when I put my hand up to approve finance and money being moved from one account to the other, I have a right to question and to basically vote against it until I get a clear clarification. And I asked for it last year, I got denied. So therefore, I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying money went missing. I'm saying I don't fully understand it. The way I look at the budget and I look at the year-end finances, there's something that I don't fully understand, and I'll bring it up in a few minutes. I need clarification, so I will not support this resolution.
Mr. Chairperson, that Donna's being asked by me or any other counselor, why do we transfer the money from A to B? She has a very good explanation.
Anybody else? I will call for the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Next item then is another reserve transfer. This is a
Bridge and culverts.
bridge and culvert to general operating.
Make that motion.
Seconder for that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Did you want to read that out for the audience?
Be it resolved, we do hereby authorize the transfer in the amount of $8,952 from the bridge and culvert reserve to the general operating as per the 2021 budget.
Kurt, you second it?
Yes, I did.
Anybody wish to speak to that? I will call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? You got that, John?
Yep.
Okay.
Next item then is a reserve transfer general operating to road reconstruction reserve.
We'll need a mover for that. Don't you want to read that out for the audience, or do you want me to?
Be it resolved, we do hereby authorize the transfer in the amount of $40,251.53 from general operating to road reconstruction, which represents the surplus of the aggregate mining and transfer fees collected in the 2021 budget.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion? See none, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed?
And the final transfer then is an accumulated surplus transfer to the general operating account.
We'll need a mover.
Be it resolved, we need to hereby authorize a transfer from accumulated surplus in the amount of $40,000 to the general operating as per the 2021 budget.
Seconder for that motion? Anybody wish to speak to that motion? I will call for the question, all in favor. Opposed? Okay, opposed.
Next item on the agenda is the financial statement as of December 31st, 2021.
Mover for that motion?
Accept that.
Seconder for that motion?
Second,
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
questions, once the mover and the second, just question.
They're both done.
Okay,
I think you
Mr. Chairperson.
guys are good? Yeah, okay, go, Sal.
Mr. Chairperson, again, that goes back the last 3 or 4 resolutions. In my language, we own things, meaning the document. Who owns or who signs off on the December 31st, 2021 financial statement before it comes to council? It's the CEO, correct?
I signed it and then Bill signs it after the.
After we approve.
Yeah.
So what I have done, again, I'm not an accountant and I don't want anybody jumping all over me when I look at last year's budget at the public hearing, I see on the expense side or budget 2021, the actual, if you want to bring up the 2021 expense budget. Can you bring that up or?
Like you want the financials?
No, the actual budget. What I'm saying is, I don't see the same numbers in the
Correct,
provincial or the public hearing budget
yes,
versus the expense budget.
that's correct. 'Cause it's never the same.
Okay, so,
And the reason that it's never the same is your reserve transfers. The
okay,
reserve transfers on the budget are shown on the revenues sheet, which is page 2 of your budget. Okay,
of the budget,
right. But
that's this
when,
one,
that's correct,
okay?
okay? But when we put them into our accounting program, as the reserve transfers actually offset the expenses. And so on page number 2 of the statement of revenue and expenditures on your,
Financial statement,
Financial
year-end
statement.
financial statement.
yeah, you'll notice that the reserve transfers, it says internal transfers in expenditures. That's the total right there. So they're showing in the expense side as an offset, not in the revenue side.
Okay, so in last year's, going on last year's budget.
Yeah.
We've got year in already.
Yeah.
From our budgeted expense to what actual,
Yeah.
what's the difference? What did we do financially as a municipality? I come up with about $87,000 to the good. From the budgeted, when I basically go through this, the financial statement,
We had a surplus of $18,865.62.
I'd do a large print, okay, on this sheet here. 2021 budget.
Yep.
This 2021 actual, if I take
Yeah.
the difference.
You're
it's
looking
eight.
at the statement of operations, yes,
Uh-huh.
totally different than your statement of revenue and expenditures. The statement of operations is breaking down the information through the operations and then putting it through as with your reserve, or with your accumulated surplus.
Okay. Because when I go through this and you put it in an Excel spreadsheet, there's a $244,000 difference, and it's that much, I just have to say, whoa, something is, I don't understand it. I need time, and I'd like to, like I said.
At
that's why-
any time, we can sit
No,
down and go
I'd
over
like
it
to talk
again.
to an auditor. That's why I would request the auditor to come so we can go through this. Actually, before he does the audit, it would be nice for council to have that opportunity to ask those questions, and I requested that last unit. That'd be nice. So, can we do that as a council to bring them in and just explain and request certain things to look at. Because if it's not on this use audit report, the illegal purchase of a trailer, then we're wasting $7,600. That should be flagged. And that's why I'm a little bit, there's a lot of moving parts here. I'm not saying things are done wrong. I'm just saying we need clarification. We're not accountants, and I think when we sign off on the year-end financial statement, I want to be absolutely certain that we're voting on it.
Mr. Chairperson,
So
I suggest to Councilor Hofer that when we have the date for the auditor to come in, to put in a formal resolution that he would like to talk to the council, the auditor with his paperwork, what he doesn't understand or is not clear enough, whatever, and questions the auditor if that's possible. I don't know if they will.
The auditor is scheduled to be here, I believe it's April the 7th.
with council or just with?
The auditor is scheduled to be here to do the audit
On
on
the
April the 7th. Not with council,
Not
but
with council,
to do the audit,
to do the audit in here.
yes.
So is there provisions or an opportunity for council members to basically put a list of things that would like to be audited,
That would be up to council to make that decision.
make a resolution? I mean, tonight, we heard a representation. I think too many times we focus, in my opinion, it's only my opinion, we focus just on the money side of an audit. It's the processes actually that can and will lead you to discrepancies, like not following procedures, like we did last year with the trailer beavers we heard tonight. Things like that need to be clearly identified. I'm expecting an auditor to pick these things up. If there's basically invoices paid without the proper documentation, that should be flagged so we can basically put these procedures and policies in place when it doesn't happen in the future. That's why I did it. I'm not going to support the year end because there's just too many numbers. I think we need to spend time on it.
Yes. We have a mover and second. Yes.
We do, Emil and Kurt.
Okay. We'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed?
The next item on the agenda then is bylaws, bylaw 1704/01/2022 to amend the maximum speed bylaw, and this is first reading.
I'll make the motion to amend the bylaw.
We have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yeah, that was recommended by the Public Works Department that they feel we can probably lessen the damage on a lot of these roads by reducing speed allotment that's on these roads. I think it's a good thing that they brought forward.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? None? Go ahead.
Donna, I think, had a conversation with somebody from highways or so on, like we should be careful if we lower the speed limit too much, because it will set sort of not a roadblock, whatever, but trucks are slowing down, and then somebody else tries to pass them if they do their 50 or 40, whatever we decide. So 60 or 70 is sort of the benchmark.
70 kilometers is what we proposed. She said if you go lower than the 70, the differential is too high. And then that
Could cause problems.
it could cause problems.
And where it said.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what you guys had requested,
Yeah.
70.
Okay.
That's reasonable speed.
I will call for the question. All in favor?
Next item on the agenda is to the adoption of Schedule A to bylaw 116281. This is the fee schedule for building permits.
Motion, we resolve, we do hereby adopt the fee schedule as adopted and presented by Keystone Planning District. Schedule A to Cornwallis Building Bylaw 1162/81.
Need a seconder for that?
I'll second it to get it on the table to discuss.
Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yeah, just a question. It's a fairly lengthy detail. How do these fees, basically, when we left the brand new, was there a major decrease or a major increase?
No,
No.
there wasn't an increase, and they cleaned it up quite a bit from what the Brandon area.
Kind of simplified it,
Yeah,
per se.
they did actually clean it up again and add, and, you know, now that they've had a year or so, to make it a little bit user friendly.
Yeah, I mean, a comment I made, when you look at it, really, so here, my computer. Rates, I don't think they're unreasonable. I mean, obviously, it's people building houses in our municipality, and we want to see, we don't want it to be a cash cow, we want it to be an efficient process that, as long as it pays the expenses, so I'm okay with that.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? I will call for the question, all in favor.
Next item then is the ward bylaw review confirmation.
We'll need a second for that.
Second.
Anybody wish to speak to that?
Sure, yeah. Whereas the Legislative and Finance Committee reviewed the ward bylaw number 164207, 2013, and made recommendation to council to leave the wards as is. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis has reviewed the ward bylaw number 164207, 2013, and make no changes.
Anybody wish to speak to that? I will call.
Yeah, just a question. I did support it, but after at the Legislative Finance Committee, and you guys heard me say that basically it would be nice to go at large. I'm now still thinking, I think in a large system in a municipality, because it's so diverse with everything. I really believe, I think next council should really consider going at large and get them really rethink this, and we were kind of rushed on time. We should look at it almost a year ahead of time and get some input from the people, like open house, just see what I had pros and cons about it, but I'll support it this time around. I think we need to look at it a little bit earlier next time.
Anybody else wish to speak? I'll call for the question, all in favor.
Can I just ask a question because someone asked me, even though it's Ward 1 and Ward 2, regardless of where you live in the RM, you can run in either ward, is that correct? Want to clarify.
Under item 10, unfinished business, no items. Under item 11, general business. 11.1, accessibility for Manitoba app compliance with updating accessibility plan for 2022 and 2023.
We need a mover and a seconder for that. Seconder? Anybody wish to speak to that one?
Can you read it?
Yep. Whereas the Cornwallis Accessibility Plan was adopted on December the 19th, 2017, and whereas the Accessibility for Manitoba's Act requires municipalities to create and update an accessibility plan every 2 years. Now therefore be it resolved that we do hereby repeal the plan that was adopted under Resolution 240, 2017 on December 19th, 2017, and replace it with the new plan dated February 28th, 2022.
Mr. Who's the mover? Who was-
Mr. Eager.
Mr. Eckert, can you explain to the public what that resolution does for us?
No, I can't.
What's that?
I can't, but
You can't.
I put it on the table.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chairperson, can you maybe tell the audience what that resolution, what it actually deals with?
Accessibility plan under the municipal act.
Yeah, but what, access to what? If the people want to know, what are we approving here? We moved, we're going to discuss it, but what actually
Mr.
is?
Chairperson, I can help.
Yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Eckert out. The province has different procedures or laws for access of public buildings, wheelchair accessible handrails. And there's quite a few things that fall under it, and they have been reviewed. As far as I read the article this year, so to bring it up to the point, whatever, that's where. And then also we might have to change things around the way we are situated, whatever, like the entrance to the main office or the entrance here, which will be done, and probably an item on the budget. Because it has to be
Because I would
done by.
assume that you're not up to code now, or.
Well, that's the thing, that's why the province brought it, the province.
That's why they want you to review it.
Yeah, the province, and I gotta give them credit for that over the past year. Has a lot of updates of older bylaws or provincial laws as such, whatever. This is one of them. There's different other ones. I go on the provincial website every day and look on the notices, whatever, you know, and if they're for us, printed, whatever, then I download them and have them there. This is one of the items, whatever, we have to, of course, to vote on it to be in compliance.
Now, here's a question, I'm sorry, Vicki.
Oh, go ahead.
With accessibility now, how does that impact your dump stations and that kind of stuff? Do they have anything in reference? Well, I'm just asking.
Oh, no.
No, I mean, there is nothing there that we could make it more accessible. We can't, like, in order to throw your garbage into it, you have to get right up.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm not sure how we could make that
Oh,
accessible.
no, I'm just
for-
asking if they address things like that in there too, right?
It's more for making it accessible for
The office, for the office, for people to come in.
It's all
and
government
and how
facilities.
you can communicate with us.
The explanation.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? I will call for the question. All in favor?
Next item on the agenda then is the cybersecurity assessment and confidentiality approval letter. And I didn't put a resolution.
Why don't we table it till the next meeting? I mean, we gotta
Yeah,
study
no,
it.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, for
I'll
sure.
make a motion to defer it. If there's no resolution or we can't study it.
Perfect.
If I may, this is similar, the next one, like the cyber security, whatever, because of whatever's going on. There's RMs, whatever, that have been cracked, whatever, they're code and everything else. I mean, we're fairly safe as far as I know, but things can happen. This way, there's auditors coming in, checking our system or such, whatever, telling us if it's one time or not, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but whatever you email to us, should be safe. That way.
I got moved by Councillor Hofer.
We need a second.
Sue Belly?
No. No,
We're on
Cyber.
to table the.
To table.
that motion.
I second.
Thank you, Kurt.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Oh, the next item then is the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation.
I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that correspondence dated February the 25th, 2022 from Sioux Valley Dakota Nation forward to the Budget and Finance Committee for review and recommendation to council for the April 19, 2022 regular scheduled meeting with council.
Second motion.
Excuse me, anybody wish to speak to that?
No, it was a good letter. that they
I-
submitted.
Just for the audience who know what's going on, the Sioux Valley committee or read, whatever their title is, don't look at me negatively, whatever. They want to contact us, see what we can do. Help them with the property. The property is off Grand Valley Road, just past the,
Where the school is.
Yeah, right.
yeah, the school, the
Where
old
the
school
old
site,
school is.
whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And hypothetically, whatever, they expect Brandon to expend water sewer to them. At least you haven't approached the city yet. But I get our letter, so I wish them the best of luck.
Yep.
But that's different altogether. So that's where the letter comes in, so we're gonna.
I think that.
Could they not run it from the research station?
It's still,
The water pipe is right there, so.
well, but like, they look into it, whatever it happens.
Usually, what we found is if the city invites anything to do with shared services, they want to annex it into Brandon. So I'm not sure how this would fit into that equation, but this is the step to help them move forward in that situation. So I will call for the question, all in favor?
Next item on the agenda then, 11.9, Richmond Waste Transfer Station Operations Manual.
Trippers, it wasn't the complaint policy. Was that part of,
The
that was
resolution,
on, I did, that wasn't mine.
the resolution was item 11.4 to 11.8.
We included that one too.
Oh.
Yeah,
Up to 11.8,
Including 11.8,
including 11.8, right? That's
so we're
okay.
removing that one too.
not what, 11.8?
Yeah, we're not dealing with it.
No,
Oh, okay, it was on there, that was mine.
11.9 is the next item of the agenda.
Okay. 11.9 then is the Richmond,
Waste transfer station.
yeah, the Richmond
Operations
Waste
manual.
Transfer Station.
We'll get through. We need a mover,
I move.
need a second there. Anybody wish to speak to that resolution?
I can read the motion, Mr. Chairman. Whereas the province of Manitoba has established standards for transfer station in Manitoba, whereas operation of transfer stations are required to maintain an operation manual. Now, therefore, will be resolved that we hereby approve the Richmond Waste Transfer Station operations manual as presented today's date.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
Call for a second.
Yeah, I'll grant it.
Anybody wish to speak to that motion?
The standards are fairly true, 31 pages, and I went to, I listened to webinar, that's what it is, webinar of running of transfer stations, of landfill sites and so on, whatever, there's quite a few obligation, whatever, but we have to have it in writing in other transfer stations, so if residents would like to see what's going on and why we do certain stuff, it's right in there. You cannot do that because we have to either separate whatever goes there or keep it apart or not even accept.
Anybody else wish to speak to that? Call for the question, all in favor?
The next item then is the Whiten Waste Transfer Station Operations Manual.
Make that motion, whereas the province of Manitoba has established a standard for transfer stations in Manitoba, and whereas operators of the transfer stations are required to maintain an operational manual. Now therefore be it resolved that we hereby approve the White Transfer Station Operations Manual as presented to today's date. And I want to add that those manual, both of this manual be added to the municipal website.
We've been second.
Got it.
Second. Anybody wish to speak to that?
Yeah, long time coming. This, I think it's great for the residents out there. If anybody has any questions, what cannot be taken there, everything is right in there, and a lot of it is due to regulations. Yeah, so there's a lot of good information. We hired a drafting person to make a professional looking map, so I think can encourage if our attendants at these sites get into a dispute with some of the people dropping things off, they should refer, that it should be quickly and accessible on our website, because that's a good document. It's well needed. We spent a lot of money last year cleaning up the set, I think twice at least, things that weren't supposed to be dropped there, and it cost the taxpayers extra money from somebody being negligent, dropping things off that aren't supposed to be there. So hopefully this manual can steer us in the right direction.
Well, to add to that is that they might not have known. You know what I
And
mean?
that's true.
They might not have known. So what I will do is call for the question. All in favor?
Next item on the agenda is inquiries.
Yes. I'll get everybody else a chance first.
Emma?
Yeah, I see we got an email late today about the local improvement for Cheater. I think the quicker we can have that meeting, because people are asking me for the audience out there. Local improvement meeting, the sewage collection. I think it'd be prudent to give the people an opportunity to have a meeting first before they go into the public. Just for information.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
gave
that's
you
good.
the, yeah, so
That's good.
whenever you're ready to call that
Yeah.
meeting, then.
I'll look at my schedule and maybe, I'd like Dan to be there at that meeting. just to- Dan Burns.
For your review
No,
or
just
for
for
the people meeting?
people's meeting.
Yeah, he's
People's
got that
meeting.
on his
Yeah,
list.
good. Okay, I'll let you know.
We might want to coordinate with Dan's schedule as well.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't want to take him away from
No, that's for sure.
his other
That's,
stuff over there.
that's why I don't want to bother him right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that we gotta keep him in mind with his schedule. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
On that.
You know, we gave him the next one, we gave him 14 days, I believe, to respond with the RFP for the gravel tender.
Yeah.
Have we any feedback?
Well, I signed off you sent me the
Yep.
agreement,
Yep.
so the 10 days it was,
Yeah.
is March 23rd.
Yeah, okay.
And he committed, that was committed in his
Yeah.
agreement, yeah.
We need to, lessons learned with these firms, we need to put deadlines on. So
Well, I think it keeps him more focused, right?
one
Okay.
more,
Okay,
yeah, one more.
yeah, sorry.
I would have liked to, that city of Brandon Lagoon sludge. I talked to one of the city representatives. I'm gonna make an inquiry. I think the CEO needs to reach out to the city and to confirm. He told me these.
Mr. Chairperson,
It's an inquiry.
it's not on the agenda,
It's an
and
inquiry.
it shouldn't be.
It's an inquiry, Mr. Chairperson. We got these things in place
Yeah.
to inquire.
No, I know. That-
Basically, at
Go
the end of the day,
Yeah.
we need to make an inquiry. If indeed Assiniboine Applications will be the contractor for the city of Brandon lagoon dredging. My understanding is they will. We need to get our ducks lined up. We hear it from ratepayers. You mentioned a couple times tonight, we need to put our ducks in a row before things happen. It's supposed to start on May the 15th. The conversation I had with city officials, we need an agreement in place. We're gonna be ripping up roads. If they're gonna go to the property that I think it's going, taxpayers should not be on the hook, folks. The city of Brandon, I'm not saying the farmer or the applicator, it needs to be the city that needs to hold basically the money back here. They need to pay us to basically make sure before, during, and after this operation takes place, they need to pay for it. The city of Brandon.
We have gone through the same procedure, and if we go back, I don't know how many times, the city will come back. They are our roads. We are not paying for that. Period. Unfortunately, but we can try again.
Mr. Chairperson, is there, for the CEO, is there a policy for that sludge to be trucked onto our roads? Like, do we have any documentation whatsoever?
No, and that's not licensed through us,
No,
it's licensed
no,
through the environment.
That's not the, but it's used, last year, I drove the roads in 2020, and I will say, it was, the Incarnate Road, we only damaged 1 mile. Okay, last year, I'd driven it, it was 13 miles that I followed these trucks. And I can't believe that we don't have a policy in place. That's why I wanted a resolution tonight. The best we could is to at least get the ball rolling and put something in place. The city needs to own the damage on our roads. It's unfair for our taxpayers to be paying the fuel cost, the wear and tear on our graders, gravel costs. It's no different than the gravel. And I'm a bit disappointed, Mr. Chairperson, that you supported removing this from the agenda. because that's-
Chairperson,
I'm in inquiry stages, Mr. Chairperson.
Councillor Holford, you can be disappointed. You will not address the rate like that, okay?
I
But
said,
you would
Mr.
like,
Chair-
would you like to read, or would you like to read me? Go through the,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairperson. for-
our rules and regulations, behavior council meetings.
Is there anything else under inquiries?
Yes, I would just like to read that last one over for, that I made the inquiry. Okay, the first two are pretty straightforward, but that last one.
What I've got is that you inquired about the lagoon dredging and could we inquire who the contract was awarded to?
Yes, but
That's
can
what
you,
you
yeah,
want.
you're gonna reach out to the city and
Yes,
give counsel in writing. It's an inquiry. It should be straightforward.
Mr. Chairperson, there is on the city website, I don't know what department or which department. When I first got on council in 2002, I was more or less concerned about the stuff they're trucking there. Like there's heavy metals, it's a sludge from the lagoon and so on, whatever. And he got back to me with a detailed whatever was, how much they're removing, from where and so on, whatever. And like I said, you could maybe look it up on the city website.
Mr. Chairperson, it's regulated, like the CEO said, through Manitoba. I'm gonna call it conservation. It's got another name, but you'll have to.
I
Yeah,
want to say,
I'm not questioning the material that's going out there. What I'm questioning, we're gonna see 2,000 trucks, semi-loads, going onto potential roads that we don't know if they're rated for, and our ratepayers are going to have to pay for the repairing of those roads where it should be the city. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not questioning the slurry that's going out there. I'm not an engineer.
That's not a, in my opinion, that's what we should do. Environmental, whatever they put down on agriculture, whatever.
Make an inquiry then. I'm
I know
more
what
worried
you're
about
putting down. I'm
the
not gonna make an
expense.
inquiry.
I'm more worried about the expenses that our ratepayers will have to pay to reclaim those roads.
okay, we've got it written down there. Donna, you want to read that back just once more?
yeah. Councilor Hooper inquired regarding the local improvement meeting. Councilor Hooper will call a meeting of the committee. Also asked about gravel tender, which date is going to be in by March 23rd, 2022. And inquired about the lagoon dredging. Could we inquire who the contract was awarded to and the CAO to give response to council in writing?
Need a mover in a second? No, okay,
Just,
okay.
Notice of motion then.
yes, I've got it right here.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have received one notice of motion that will come to your next council meeting regarding resolution 2022/040, which was passed on February 15th.
So, Mr. Chairperson, can I ask a question? So the audience hears what the process is. It'll be a motion on the agenda, on the next council meeting's agenda, right?
It'll be a
To-
motion to reconsider or reverse.
Reconsider or reverse. Now, can I explain, Mr. Chairperson, to the audience what I'm asking to reconsider? It's that contract we signed, or not signed, but asked the motion with our auditors. After making a few inquiries, I've got some reservations about a 5-year contract. When there's certain things in that audit that need to be flagged. When you look at the financial statement, we heard it tonight, the beavers, was never mentioned, that we're not following the process. In my opinion, that's what an auditor should advise council, not chastise, it's just say, folks, follow your procedures. We really need to reconsider that 5-year contract and maybe we might use the same one, but we might want to open up basically and expand their duty or their work, what they're doing. Just give them clear instructions, look for these things, to improve our processes. That's what I'm asking council to consider.
Next item on the agenda is adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Call for the question, all favor.
I just want to ask about the transfer stations, like some of the stuff that we can't take there, like when we have to take that to Brandon now, do we get any kind of a break or it's just so much